His sword fell, shattering the rain. The huge sword image transformed into a crescent moon that slashed down. The crescent moon was 30,000 meters long at the start, but as Long Chen attacked, it explosively grew, enveloping Luo Mingho and Bloodkill 9 within it. Everyone stared in shock as this celestial blade slashed down. The world changed color. Luo Mingho hastily formed hand seals and chanted. His forehead split open, and divine runes appeared, wrapping around him. As for Bloodkill 9, he was locked down by Split the Heaven's divine might and couldn't flee. Clenching his teeth, he took out a palm-sized turtle shell. The turtle shell sparkled like jade. It looked to just be an ornament, but when he poured his spiritual yuan into it, it grew to hundreds of meters and began to shine. An aura of primal chaos flowed within it. This turtle shell was actually a powerful ancestral item. Boom! The crescent blade slashed down, exploding into blinding light. The ground was instantly split in two, and a long ditch extended far beyond the horizon. Even the Xiantian Dao Sect's grand protective formation was cut apart, and the sword chi continued. However, a divine light shot out of the Xiantian Tower, blocking the attack. This single slash terrified everyone, both friend and enemy. This attack surpassed the scope of their understanding. Even Lu Tsang and the tower department head were stunned. If they hadn't personally witnessed it, they would definitely have refused to believe that Long Chen could unleash such a terrifying attack. This attack was something that even Life Star experts would definitely die to if they didn't have an ancestral item to protect them. As for the opposing Life Star experts, they turned ashen. They blessed their luck that this sword hadn't been aimed at them. Otherwise, they didn't know if they would have been able to survive. After launching this attack, Long Chen began to pant. He felt like he had used up all his energy. Suddenly, a figure of light flew out of the dust. It was Luo Mingho's soul. "Where do you think you're going?" Long Chen stretched out his hand, and the lightning dragon tattoo on his arm lit up. However, before he could attack, a violet spiritual arrow shot over and pierced Luo Mingho's soul. No! Luo Mingho's body had been destroyed despite the protection of his ancestral spirit. Now that he only had his soul, the spiritual arrow instantly caused his soul to dissipate. In order to force Long Chen to accept his challenge, he had called Meng Qi out to fight. He had also said many hateful things in his efforts. In order to protect Long Chen, everyone had been forced to stay inside and not say a word. But even the calm-natured Meng Qi felt like Luo Mingho had to be killed due to his malicious tongue. As a soul cultivator, she was better than anyone here at killing a soul. She had long since been prepared, and Luo Mingho's soul didn't manage to run far before she killed him. After all, Luo Mingho was only a Jade Core disciple. Although his soul was powerful, it was still just a soul. He hadn't condensed a Yuan spirit yet. As his soul dissipated, a generation's heavenly genius died. Boom! Just at this moment, a huge wind blade cut through the dusty battlefield. It landed on a huge white-colored turtle shell. Tang Wanner had also attacked. Tang Wanner had now reached the 4th heaven stage of Jade Core. She was at the mid-Jade Core realm, and her attack was extremely powerful. The turtle shell trembled. As for Bloodkill 9 who was behind it, his body was covered in cracks. He was heavily injured even with an ancestral item protecting him. Tang Wanner's attack caused him to cough up more blood, and the cracks on his body grew. If struck again, his body would explode. Suddenly, he vomited blood onto the turtle shell. It instantly became scarlet and began to rapidly spin. It formed a spatial portal in the air. "This bastard's running!" cried Guoran. He whipped out his crossbow, and a black light shot into the turtle shell. Regretfully, the arrow was unable to affect the turtle shell at all. Meng Qi, Tang Wanner, Hua Shiyu, and the others all unleashed attacks, but they were ineffective in the face of an ancestral item. Barriers of light had appeared on the turtle shell, which also covered Bloodkill 9. Space began to tremble. Long Chen paused his hand seal. The lightning and flame dragon images on his arms had lit up, but in the end, Long Chen put down his hands. "Long Chen, congratulations on escaping your assassination this time. That's your blessing, but also your misfortune. With the killing god's guidance, death is your only end. Just patiently wait for your death to come." Bloodkill 9 was covered in blood, but his eyes were still icy cold. Stop talking. In my eyes, you're just a minor character. Whether I kill you today or tomorrow doesn't matter. You should cherish your life after managing to escape with it. Keep talking and just wait for the Shentian Tower to attack. Then even 10,000 lives wouldn't be enough for you, said Long Chen indifferently. If Long Chen unleashed the Double Dragon destruction, he was 90% confident in killing Bloodkill 9. Although his spiritual yuan was exhausted, just Lei Long and Hua Long's power should be enough to kill him. However, he chose not to. He had two misgivings. One was that he was worried about exposing the heaven-incinerating flames so quickly. That would draw suspicion. Another reason was that Hua Long and Lei Long had grown to a terrifying level. He didn't know just what would happen if he released the two of them. Although the Dragon Blood Legion was rather far away, he wasn't 100% sure that they would be safe. After having their power explosively grow, Hua Long and Lei Long weren't able to perfectly control their energy. They were only able to release it explosively. So after hesitating, he decided not to kill him. And if he didn't kill him, the Shentian Tower would feel that it was beneath it to kill him. The Shentian Tower was a divine item, and it had its own pride. It wouldn't participate in the competition of the junior generation. Unless someone provoked the Shentian Dao sect, which was provoking the Shentian Tower, it wouldn't interfere too often. Yes, that's the truth. My life was bestowed to me by the grand killing god. Death is just returning to the embrace of the god. Bloodkill 9 became covered in divine runes. His expression lacked any fear at all. What a nice way to put it. Since you love your god so much, why don't I send you to see your god right now? Hopefully, your god has long enough arms, or it won't be able to hold you all if there are too many of you, said Long Chen. He couldn't be bothered trying to change the minds of these brainwashed fellows. These people were no longer even human. Their heads no longer knew how to think for themselves, and they only knew how to follow orders. That was why Long Chen didn't feel the slightest guilt no matter how many of their assassins he killed. He knew they were emotionless killing machines. Blasphemer, you'll receive your divine punishment soon. Repent in your terror and regret. Don't commit the same sins in your next life. Fuck, can you shut up? Raged Long Chen. He almost unleashed the double dragon destruction right there and then. Just at this moment, the turtle shell shook and vanished along with Bloodkill 9. Rank 9 Celestials really are hard to kill. They have countless trump cards and are supported by karmic luck. Even after all that, I only managed to get one. But just getting one rank 9 Heavenly Dao fruit was worth it. Long Chen slowly descended from the sky. Meng Qi, Tang Wan'er, and the others all rushed over to greet him. Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er helped support him. This time, he wasn't acting. He was really out of energy. Despite his weakened state, the fact that he had fought against 2 rank 9 Celestials and even killed one still caused him to give off immense pressure. Long Chen, you murdered colleagues of the righteous path. Where is your conscience? Is your Shentian Dao sect planning on rebelling and going against the righteous path? Shouted the Life Star experts. Supported by Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er, Long Chen's gaze swept across those Life Star experts. He sneered, colleagues? Are you trying to joke? Were they acting like colleagues? This was just a mutually beneficial exchange of pointers. Both sides would work to improve themselves. But you viciously murdered them. Your crimes need to be punished. Cried out another Life Star expert from the crowd. Do you think I'm as stupid as you? You've established a mystic peering formation around the Shentian Dao sect to keep watch over our every move. Don't tell me that's a part of exchanging pointers. Sneered Long Chen. As soon as he had arrived, he had seen the formation outside the Shentian Dao sect. That was what had enraged him the most. Through this formation, they were able to observe every movement of the Shentian Dao sect. Although it couldn't see into the Shentian Dao sect, it was still a provocation and an insult. This little move of theirs might not have affected the Shentian Dao sect on the surface, but if the Shentian Dao sect simply endured it, then eventually it would be surrounded by all kinds of formations. If it was like a game of chess, the end result would definitely be a checkmate. I don't have time to waste words with you. And you guys shouldn't try to act stupid in front of me. Hurry up and scram, or there'll be no need for you to ever leave again, snorted Long Chen. Buzz. Suddenly, a ray of golden light shot out from the Xiantian Dao sect. That direction is dash. Boom. The earth shook and a plume of smoke rose from the distance. Because it was so far, they first felt the earth shaking before they heard the sound. The Mystic Peering Formation has been destroyed. That direction was where the Mystic Peering Formation was. The Xiantian Tower had unleashed an attack to destroy it. Long Chen coldly stared at the shocked Life Star experts. Did you fools think that sucking up to Pill Valley would allow you to do anything? After being used by Pill Valley, you still don't realize you're just idiotic cannon fodder. You might have forgotten, but while Pill Valley is strong, its interior is currently in a mess due to the chaos Long Sen caused. They're too busy to bother with anything else right now. You fools weren't even able to see this, and yet you still came to add fuel to the fire. If I try to talk reason with you, you play your games to avoid me. If I play your games, you start acting as shameless as possible. Well now, I'm not going to beat around the bush. In the future, I won't be talking reason with any of you idiots. No matter who it is, either fuck off or fight. From top to bottom, from the Shen Master to the workers, my Xiantian Dao sect's blood is hot, and our spines are straight. If you want to come suppress us, you can try and suppress us with your lives. That's the only thing left to say. Any more words are meaningless. Scram. Long Chen's words echoed through the air, and killing intent erupted out of him, causing the world to change color. An undefeatable will shook their hearts. Scram. 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 The Dragonblood warriors, the Xiantian Dao sect's elite disciples, the inner sect disciples, the outer sect disciples, all of them roared. Their voices seemed unstoppable. The air became saturated with the will of every member of the Xiantian Dao sect. This kind of cohesiveness is something only Long Chen is capable of, said Li Tianxian emotionally. Of course, even an old man like me feels my blood heating up. I almost want to shout with them, laughed Lu Tsong. When Long Chen had roared, they had also been affected. They had felt something stir in them that they hadn't in a long time. The tower department head bitterly smiled. Even someone like him had an urge to go out and dominate the battlefield, so it could be imagined what the young disciples were feeling. Now they fully understood why the Dragonblood Legion's warriors would be so united and follow Long Chen so unswervingly. That was because he possessed a charisma that could make others willing to fight to the death for him. The Xiantian Dao sect's disciples had never been this united before. It was the result of Long Chen creating miracle after miracle, which had caused the Xiantian Dao sect's reputation to rise to the point that their light blinded the rest of the eastern Xian region. Any sect's disciple would feel a sense of belonging and pride in their heart. But before, the Xiantian Dao sect hadn't done anything in particular to enforce this, so their hearts were scattered. It was Long Chen's arrival that had caused everyone's hearts to unite. Li Tianxian had noticed that after the battle on Devil Spirit Mountain, after Long Chen had managed to defeat the corrupt path's Gui Yen, the Xiantian Dao sect's unity had been elevated to an unprecedented level. There had been several times when outsiders tried to infiltrate the Xiantian Dao sect and bribe its disciples to incite disharmony. But no matter what they offered, they were unable to shake those disciples' hearts. They weren't even able to buy a single worker. Li Tianxian knew that the reason they followed the Xiantian Dao sect so loyally was because of Long Chen. Long Chen had become the idol of everyone here. He was essentially a godlike existence to them. They all believed that as long as Long Chen was here, the Xiantian Dao sect would continue to rise. They felt that just being in the same sect as him was a supreme glory. That was why when that worker had been bullied, he hadn't said a word until they started insulting Long Chen. Then he would fight to the death to protect Long Chen's glory. With the millions of people in the Xiantian Dao sect roaring at once, those Life Star experts turned pale. They could only leave dejectedly. They were finally afraid. A single person's power wasn't something to be afraid of. The most terrifying thing was a power that was fully united from top to bottom. No matter how solid the foundation, there were always weaknesses. But it was different with the Xiantian Dao sect. This time, The attitude of the Xiantian Dao sect was clear. Long Chen's position was no lower than Li Tianxuan's in the Xiantian Dao sect. Becoming enemies with Long Chen was becoming enemies with the Xiantian Dao sect. Thus, trying to drive a wedge between them was impossible. With the Life Star experts leaving, the disciples of the Xiantian Dao sect let out heaven-shaking cheering. This victory belonged to all of them. Furthermore, Long Chen had finally reappeared. All the disciples cheered and surrounded Long Chen, like stars surrounding the moon. They shouted until their throats were sore. Their gazes were fanatical. Li Tianxian had concealed the truth so well that everyone in the Xiantian Dao sect had been worried for Long Chen. They were aware that the Xiantian Dao sect had been searching everywhere for medicine, and with the people provoking them right outside their door, a shadow had been cast over the sect. However, today, Long Chen had reappeared, healthier than ever. Fighting against two peak heavenly geniuses, he had even managed to kill one. That made these disciples so excited that they didn't even know what to do. They could only cheer crazily to express their emotions. Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were filled with pride. This man who was revered as a god was the one they loved. Long Chen also felt emotional. He greeted these disciples as best as he could. In truth, no one in the world was completely good or completely bad. Each person's heart had a dark side. But some people could suppress that side, and some couldn't. The most terrifying thing was for a person to be corrupted by their dark side without even realizing it. They would feel that what they were doing was correct, that they were right, and that no matter how vile their actions were, they wouldn't need to feel any guilt. Back when he had first arrived at the Xiantian Dao sect, he had disliked this place. People were scheming against each other every day. Yet today, through the 9-star He-Gem body art, he could sense everyone's emotions. Everyone here had absolute trust in him. Perhaps only trust could give birth to belief, and once a person had a belief, it would form a guide for them. People without any belief would have no bottom line and be easily drawn into depravity. That was terrifying. However, if their faith was wrong, it would be even more terrifying. They would become crazy people filled with bigotry. On one hand, there were the Wine God Palace's disciples who believed in their wine god and that the wine Dao could lead them to the heavenly Daos. They lived leisurely without any struggles. There was also the Huayun sect's disciples. Their faith was in the wealth god, and they believed that the business Dao could lead them to the heavenly Daos. Using their wealth, they could get rid of hunger and pain. They lived as businessmen, and so they treated their customers well. They also helped out countless poor people. One of them detached themselves from the rest of the world, while one was intricately connected with the world. But in the end, what they pursued was the wealth of the mind and of the heart. They spread their happiness to others. On the other hand, there were the corrupt path and the bloodkill hall. The corrupt path believed that the weak were prey to the strong, and that the weak could be slaughtered at will. Their version of the heavenly Daos was one where only the strong would survive. The bloodkill hall wasn't much better, focusing on their assassination Dao. They believed that every person in the world had sins that made it so they could kill them without any guilt. Killing people simply reduced the sin in the world. They were the servants of the killing god, and were carrying out their divine mission. In truth, each belief had its own principles and justifications. They were all paths that pursued the heavenly Daos. However, the path to the heavenly Daos was built on the human Dao, on the mortal Dao, as a foundation. The goal was for the heavens and man to be one. Otherwise, cultivation wouldn't begin with the body. There would be no qi condensation, blood condensation, tendon transformation, bone forging, meridian opening. The concept of building up Hotian power to step into the Xiantian realm wouldn't exist. Since it was a process of constant evolution, then the point was to undergo constant changes without losing touch with the source. What changed was just the outside but not the heart. Through cultivation, a person became stronger. But no matter how powerful they became, no matter how many magical arts they mastered, no matter what heights they reached, their innate character was something that shouldn't change. For example, mankind should treasure family, friends, and love. The foundation of how to conduct oneself was rooted in humbleness, righteousness, bravery, dedication, etc. Yet, Many people's desires grew along with their martial power. They became arrogant and prejudiced. It was like a dynasty ruled by a royal family. The dynasty started in the hands of a wise ruler and was destroyed in the hands of a corrupt ruler. That was because they became too arrogant, believing themselves to be an omnipotent god. In the end, the foundation that had given them what they had was destroyed. Without the human Tao, where would the heavenly Taos come from? If you couldn't even be a proper person, how could you cultivate the heavenly Taos? That was why Long Chen didn't believe in any god. Some beliefs were wrong, so he wouldn't believe in them. Some beliefs were correct, but they didn't suit him. He had to walk his own path. Well done, Long Chen. When Long Chen walked into the inner sect plaza, Li Tianxian, Lu Tsang, and the tower department head were already standing at the center. Many thanks for your praise. If you praise me for a few more hours, I'll be even happier. Long Chen bowed. But that naughty smile was completely improper. Perhaps only Long Chen would dare to speak to the Xian master like this in the Xiantian Dao sect. However, Li Tianxian was already used to the fact that this little fellow liked to speak without restraint, so he wasn't offended. Instead, it made them seem even closer. Long Chen truly viewed the Xian master as a family elder, not a sect leader. The latter was a professional title, while the former seemed more intimate. Li Tianxian smiled and nodded. He had all the disciples go back and rest for now. Then he brought Long Chen to the peak of the Xiantian Tower alone. Not bad. You've managed to remove the curse. It seems you've already obtained the second volume of the Nirvana scripture. And I heard you flipped the entire Pill Valley on its head. The name of Master Long San is shaking the entire world. Let me hear your marvelous story. Ah, it was just me blindly messing around. It's not even worth telling, said Long Chen bashfully. Although that was what came out of his mouth, his hands were already starting to gesture enthusiastically. Hearing Long Chen's story, even Li Tianxian felt his heart pounding in shock. Although he had heard the recent news about Pill Valley, the rumors and stories that came through the grapevine could not compare to the truth spoken by one who had not only personally witnessed it, but also been in the middle of it. Lord Brahma and fallen Day Night are the gods Pill Valley believes in. Lord Brahma is the god of controlling fire, while fallen Day Night is the god of forging furnaces. Flames and pill furnaces are two must-haves for alchemy. Rumor has it that all of Pill Valley was built around their inheritances. As for the Valley Master, for him to suppress the all-devil monster, he had to have used the god's power. As expected, Pill Valley is as unfathomable as always, sighed Li Tianxian. Long Chen wasn't just telling him his story. He also revealed many battle scenes he had recorded on photographic jades. When Li Tianxian had seen the all-devil monster, he had jumped in shock. That monster was absolutely terrifying. For Long Chen to be able to survive such an encounter, it could be said that as usual, his luck was heaven-defying. One god's inheritance is flame arts, and the other's is forging arts. Then what about the actual alchemy arts? Asked Long Chen. If you don't know after muddling around in Pill Valley for so long, how would I know? Li Tianxian couldn't help but smile. I went through countless tomes in Pill Valley, but I didn't see any information about those two fellows or any of the secrets behind Pill Valley's history, said Long Chen helplessly. Perhaps it was simply that he hadn't been qualified to learn such things. If Li Tianxian hadn't mentioned it now, he wouldn't have even known about the background of Lord Brahma and Fallen Day Night. So Fallen Day Night specialized in forging alchemy tools. It was no wonder his statue had held a pill furnace. However, Lord Brahma was even more amazing. All flame magical arts were his inheritance. Long Chen regretted having left Pill Valley so early. He hadn't learned their true skills. Back when he had fought against Chu Dajiang, Dan Yanxue, Qin Dongzi, and Jiang Zijuan, they had used many powerful techniques that he had never seen before. Clearly, the flame magical arts he had managed to learn in Pill Valley were nothing to them. Shen Master, that all-devil monster, repeatedly said that Lord Brahma used the all-devil race, and that he was a traitor who betrayed his master. Do you know what he was talking about? Asked Long Chen. This was still a mystery to him, so he asked Li Tianxian, whom he had to prostrate toward when it came to wisdom. It would be best if you didn't discuss things relating to gods. Before Li Tianxian could say anything, the Xiantian Tower's voice rang out. Longchen, although it looks like your trip to Pill Valley went very smoothly, the truth is that you have already invoked karma. You have to be careful. When mortals end up involved with gods, they are infected by karma, and that karma will always settle its debts during heavenly tribulation, said the Xiantian Tower. What? Long Chen's expression instantly changed. People aren't being alarmists when they say that man and God are blocked off from each other by the heavenly Taos. You shouldn't randomly discuss gods, or the karma will cause divine lightning to fall during your next tribulation. In the end, mortals aren't able to resist divine lightning. And it's not just you, Longchen. Li Tianxian, you've reached the peak of life star and have touched the next barrier. If you are infected by karma, you'll definitely die during your next tribulation. The Xiantian Tower's voice was extremely grave. Divine lightning? Longchen gulped. He was doomed. He had a premonition that his next lightning tribulation would be far more dangerous than any before. This was a feeling that came from the 9-star Hegemon body art. It seemed that he would definitely encounter divine lightning next time. So the Xiantian Tower had been helping Longchen out by not mentioning gods to him before. But now, it was already too late. He felt like the heavenly Taos had already locked onto him. They were just waiting for their chance. Shen Master, I have a request. Longchen suddenly clenched his teeth and took out a dragon-shaped jade pendant. Do you know the origin of this jade pendant? 9-line soul calming jade? No, that's not right. This dragon shape, it's... Li Tianxuan's expression suddenly changed. We know its origin, but it would be best if you didn't learn it yet. By the time you reach that level, you will naturally learn of it. The Xiantian Tower cut off Li Tianxian once more. Li Tianxuan's expression was bewildered, but he didn't say anything. He simply handed the jade pendant back to Longchen. Longchen, this jade pendant's origin is even more complex than you imagine. It can be used as a summoning transportation formation, but it would be best if you never used it. As for why, you should think about it yourself, said the Xiantian Tower. Longchen's heart pounded wildly. It seemed that the Xiantian Tower had realized something and was warning him. Many thanks. Then I'll take my leave. Longchen knew that there was no point in asking any more questions, so he directly left. Seeing Longchen's parting figure, an unprecedented grave expression appeared on Li Tianxuan's face. When he first arrived, Lu Tsang said that he had a 9-line soul calming jade. I thought that he might have been some fallen genius from a powerful family. But only now do I realize that I was wrong. The shape of the dragon, it's a coiling dragon. That's the specific mark of that existence, sighed Li Tianxian. There's nothing strange about it. Back when he used Future Lake to see his past, I learned of his origin, said the Xiantian Tower. Then why didn't you warn me? Li Tianxian grumbled. Why would I warn you? Even if you knew, would you have changed your plans? Retorted the Xiantian Tower. I guess not. Then don't worry about it. No matter what his origin is, you would have bet everything on him. Furthermore, I really look favorably on you and your decision, said the Xiantian Tower. Many thanks for your support. Li Tianxian was grateful. Without the Xiantian Tower's support, he wouldn't have dared to act so brazenly. He would be worried his master would kill him once he came out of seclusion. But now he had a reliable backer. I have no choice but to support you. The heavenly Taos and the lines of fate, they've become chaotic. The future is no longer clear. The chi flow of the world is surging. Heavenly geniuses will rise one after another, and the world will definitely enter a glorious era in just 100 years. But that's the herald of a world-shaking tribulation. It's also what people call the final radiance of the setting sun. Is it really so grave? Asked Li Tianxian. Although he had also felt the change in the world, in the end, part of the heavenly Taos was that the world had to go through a cycle. Trees grew and withered. A cycle of prosperity and decline was completely normal. However, the Xiantian Tower's words were a bit frightening. Li Tianxian knew that the Xiantian Tower wouldn't give such a warning just to scare him. It's even graver than you think. Although I didn't experience that battle of the immortal era, My premonition is that the upcoming tribulation won't be any less fierce than that battle, said the Xiantian Tower. Li Tianxuan's heart shook. Legends said that the martial heaven continent's 5 parts, the eastern wasteland, western desert, southern sea, northern source, and central plains had all been the same size at first. That had been a golden age for the martial heaven continent. People flourished, while gods and immortals were abundant. Yet, for some unknown reason, after a huge battle where the heavens collapsed and the earth fell, the very world had changed shape to its current state. It was said that the 5 great divine items had all appeared and joined forces, but it was unknown who their opponents were. Now there were many different stories. Some said that their enemies were demons, some said that they were devils, and some said that they were gods. That era had occurred so long ago that there was no way to research anything about it. But that huge battle had almost destroyed the entire continent. Because that time was rumored to have been a time of gods and immortals, it was called the Immortal Era. After an unknown number of years, the continent gradually recovered. Although it couldn't compare to its former glory, it had still been a glorious era with heavenly geniuses soaring and hundreds of philosophies of the Tao emerging. The Xiantian Tower, heaven-splitting battle sect, heaven-suppressing magic sect, and other sects like them had only risen during that time after the Immortal Era. It was another glorious era. However, when that era reached its peak, another tribulation suddenly descended. Countless life forms from other worlds broke through the barrier between worlds and attacked. The martial heaven continent's experts had fought back, and under the lead of sovereign-class experts, they managed to repel them. That battle had been incredibly bitter. Mountains of corpses and rivers of blood had formed. There had been so much slaughter that the sky had turned dim. Although they had won that battle in the end, almost all the continent's experts had been slain. Many extremely powerful sects were annihilated and had their inheritance fully severed. Some sects relied on their powerful foundations to survive, but lost most of their inheritance. That bloody time had been called the Dark Era. The Xiantian Tower had participated in that battle. However, it didn't say that this upcoming tribulation would be like that Dark Era. Instead, it brought up the battle at the end of the Immortal Era. Clearly, it thought that when the tribulation came, it would very likely mark the end of the martial heaven continent. Li Tianxian now understood why the Xiantian Tower would support him like this. It was because it could see the end coming. That was what made Li Tianxian feel the most fear. Don't feel pressured. If this world really is destined to die, it means its fate has simply come to an end. No matter how hard you try, it would be meaningless. But if the continent still has some fate left, there will definitely be some variables appearing to save it. The lines of fate are a complete mess now. That means the martial heaven continent also knows that it's in a fight for its life. Heavenly geniuses will spring up like bamboo after the rain. During such an era, countless demon-class geniuses will rise to stand above the rest. We will enter an era of legends. As for whether those monstrous geniuses will be able to change the fate of the continent, it'll be up to the will of the heavens. That's why you don't need to feel any pressure. Just do what you want. This is the final stand of the Xiantian Dao sect and the final stand of the martial heaven continent. The Xiantian Tower's voice resounded throughout Li Tianxuan's mind. He nodded and brushed aside all his worries. News that Long Chen had fought against Luo Mingho and Bloodkill 9 at the same time resounded throughout the eastern Xian region. Most shocking of all was that of those 2 heavenly geniuses, one was slain and the other was sent fleeing. Despite being struck by the corrupt path's underworld soul ghost curse, Long Chen hadn't died. Instead, he had advanced to the Jade Core realm and his power had risen explosively. He won even 1 against 2. If Bloodkill 9 hadn't had an ancestral item to protect him, he wouldn't have been able to escape his death either. At the same time, Long Chen's ruthlessness enraged countless sections. Their strongest Jade Core disciples had all been killed by Long Chen. They had lost a whole generation of geniuses. They went to demand justice from Pill Valley, wanting their Pill Tower to teach the Xiantian Dao sect a lesson. Last time when Zhuo Tianxiang had led them to the Xiantian Dao sect and their life star experts had been killed, They had received a large amount of compensation that had drawn Pill Valley closer to their side. This time, they had suffered huge losses because they had been currying favor with Pill Valley. They had to stand up for them. However, they hadn't expected that the Eastern Xian region's Pill Tower had changed masters. The new tower master was from the conservative faction. As a result, the door was slammed in the face of these experts. They didn't even get a single pill as compensation. Now those sects were dumbfounded. Last time, the Pill Tower had been so generous. But this time, they were a cheapskate that wouldn't even give them a copper coin. These experts could only clench their teeth and return to their sections. They had to accept a fact. Pill Valley had been flipped on its head. This was because of Master Long San. The radical faction had been completely suppressed. Although the Valley Master had said that he would put them in their place once he came out of seclusion, they were like death row inmates. They only quietly waited for execution. Although they knew that the Valley Master wouldn't kill them, they would at least be losing a layer of their skin. They were so busy acting obedient that they didn't have time to bother with anything else. With Pill Valley giving in, a storm of protest erupted in the Eastern Xian region. The Xian Tiandao sect was too domineering. Long Chen had killed so many people, and yet no one dared to do anything to them. Even the ancient races and the ancient family alliance didn't make a sound, let alone try to punish the Xian Tiandao sect. The Xian Tiandao sect's attitude was obvious. They were rising, and anyone who dared to try stopping them would be viewed as mortal enemies. Even an existence as powerful as Pill Valley had retreated, not willing to provoke the Xian Tiandao sect. It seemed even with their power, destroying the Xian Tiandao sect would come at a huge price. This was especially true with how Master Long San had half-destroyed Pill Valley. Pill Valley didn't want to do anything, while the ancient races and ancient family alliance also didn't want to take any risks without getting anything in return. Although they were also enormous existences, they weren't completely united. Right now, the Xian Tiandao sect was like a madman. No matter who went against them, the Xian Tiandao sect would launch the craziest, fiercest attack. With the Xian Tian Tower and Reincarnation Mirror backing them, no one dared to take the risk. Most importantly, even if they did destroy the Xian Tiandao sect, so what? Without any benefits, there was no way to unite enough people to attack them. Battle needed a goal, and as long as there was a goal, they could make up any other excuses as to why they had to fight. But without any profit, no one would be willing to try consuming a hard bone like the Xian Tiandao sect. Their teeth weren't strong enough for it. Although the Xian Tiandao sect had declined, they had the Reincarnation Mirror and the Xian Tian Tower. This was their foundation that made it so others didn't dare to act rashly. As for the sects that had maintained a neutral position because of the Huayan sect, they were rejoicing inside now. After weighing the pros and cons, they had decided to not offend anyone and just watch as things developed. It was because they had been so cautious that they had saved a generation of their disciples. Otherwise, if they had sent people there, they would definitely have died. The battle in front of the Xian Tiandao sect had been recorded, and photographic jades quickly spread throughout the Eastern Xian region. Everyone saw how terrifying Long Chen was. People said that as long as they didn't encounter any powerful opponents, the Xian Tiandao sect would become the Eastern Xian region's strongest sect in less than a decade. However, some people had their suspicions. On that day, Long Chen hadn't come out from within the Xian Tiandao sect, but had arrived from outside the sect. People quickly guessed that Long Chen hadn't been in the Xian Tiandao sect the entire time. The Xian Tiandao sect had simply misled them to draw their attention. Then what had Long Chen been doing during this time? Who had helped him remove the curse? Just as these questions began to pop up, news came from the Grand Xia ancient nation. People said that they had seen Long Chen in the Wine God Palace. Once this news spread, everyone came to an understanding. Considering Long Chen's close relationship with the Wine God Palace, it was clear that he had gone to them to remove the curse. Once they thought of this, they realized there was only one person who was capable of removing this curse, which even the Xian Tian Tower couldn't suppress. It had to have been the Wine God Palace's high priest. The high priest's position was transcendental. His position was just as high as Pill Valley's master. As he couldn't personally go to the Xintian Dao sect to help Long Chen had to have gone to him. While Long Chen was gone, Li Tianxian had intentionally acted nervous to draw everyone's attention. It was to cover Long Chen, while he stealthily went to the Wine God Palace. Very quickly, the Wine God Palace also sent out word that Long Chen had been in the Wine God Palace this entire time. He had been secluded in the High Priest's palace. As for why the High Priest would personally remove the curse for Long Chen, no one knew. Naturally, this was all prepared by Long Chen. When he had been in the eastern Xian city, he had gone to the Huayan sect and written a letter for them to give to the Wine God Palace's Tu Qiansheng. With the Wine God Palace testifying for him, no one would suspect that he was Master Long San. Upon returning to the Xintian Dao sect, Long Chen finally had a few carefree days. He truly felt the Xintian Dao sect to be his home now. He passed his days with Meng Qi, Tang Wen, and the others. After relaxing for a few days, he called Guo Ran to his room. "Boss, do you have good stuff for me?" Guo Ran's eyes immediately began to shine. After following Long Chen for so many years, he understood him the best. "Are you able to use this thing?" Long Chen tossed a fiery red crystal to Guo Ran. "Heavens, this is a divine flame crystal." Guo Ran's eyes almost popped out. His forging arts had reached an extremely high level, and he had studied many rare ores and materials. He immediately recognized the divine flame crystal. "Can you use it?" "Yes, definitely. This divine flame crystal can be used to forge ancestral items. It just so happens that I've been studying how to forge ancestral items during this time, but I just haven't had the materials. I should be able to refine this divine flame crystal into the arrowhead of a supreme exploding arrow. Its power might not be on the level of an ancestral item's detonation, but as long as it's used when they don't expect it, it should be no problem for it to kill a Life Star expert," said Guo Ran excitedly. "Killing Life Star experts is meaningless. I want to know if you can forge it into armor or weapons." Long Chen shook his head. He wasn't interested in killing Life Star experts. "Boss, if you put it like this, just how many of them do you have? First answer my question. Can you do it?" This was what Long Chen wanted to know. Could he forge ancestral items or not? "Yes, I definitely can do it. Boss, I can do it. How many divine flame crystals do you have?" Guo Ran's eyes blazed with anticipation. "Don't worry, there'll be enough divine flame crystals for you to use. I want to equip every warrior of the Dragonblood Legion with a set of armor and a matching weapon," said Long Chen. "You want to equip them all?" gasped Guo Ran. The Dragonblood Legion had over 13,000 members. That would mean 13,000 sets of armor and 13,000 weapons, all on the ancestral item level. That was essentially impossible. Originally, Guo Ran had thought he would just be equipping the captain-class fighters. Giving each one of them an ancestral item would definitely be badass. But Long Chen wanted to equip every single person. That was too crazy. "Close your jaw, I can see your stomach. Can you do it or not?" demanded Long Chen. "Boss, to tell the truth, although I'm a genius and incredibly smart, hardworking and dedicated, one might say a generation's leader, get to the point," interrupted Long Chen. Cough. "Well, I haven't forged ancestral items before, and these divine flame crystals have fire attributes. It's my first time coming into contact with such material. Although I'll definitely be able to forge them, there will be a few failed creations at the start." Guo Ran relied on himself to comprehend the ethereal crafting secret record. It was a tome that came from the immortal era, and it was incredibly difficult to understand. Although he had managed to learn quite a bit, and he thought he was around the level to start forging ancestral items, the forging Dao was also a grand Dao, and there were countless techniques. As he tested things, he would definitely waste a few materials. The materials for ancestral items were incredibly precious. Even wasting just a bit would make his heart bleed. "You really say a lot of nonsense. It's fine as long as you can forge them in the end. Here, I'll give you one portion for now, and you practice with it. Once you succeed in mastering this, we can research other possibilities." Long Chen tossed a spatial ring to Guo Ran. When Guo Ran looked inside the spatial ring, he almost dropped it. There were hundreds of thousands of divine flame crystals. "Boss, I'm going into seclusion. Just wait for the good news. Guoran vanished like a wisp of smoke. Long Chen knew that with Guoran's passion for forging, he would be working without caring about sleep or food. That was one of Guoran's good points. However, Long Chen didn't have particularly high hopes this time. Ancestral items weren't so easy to forge, but at least trying was necessary. After Guoran left, Long Chen also went into seclusion. Taking out a portion of the all-devil monster's essence blood, he began to refine pills. Boom. An illusory figure charged out of the blazing dragon cauldron and attacked Long Chen. It was a 3-meter-long devil beast. Bang! Long Chen's fist blew it back, but it didn't explode. Instead, it roared and black chi condensed in front of it, transforming into a black blade that slashed at Long Chen. Bang bang bang. Long Chen blocked it 3 times and was forced back. He was shocked to find that its power was extremely bizarre, capable of instantly killing ordinary Jade Core disciples. Pipe down. The medicinal energy's going to be completely wasted. Long Chen's fist began to glow, and his punch blew the illusory figure apart this time. It dissipated, revealing a giant pill the size of a baby's fist floating in the air. This was a dragon tiger body tempering pill, an extremely bizarre pill as it didn't have any set tier. It could be considered a 5th-tier medicinal pill at its lowest level, but it had no upper limit. The higher the quality of the ingredients, the greater the medicinal energy. Normally, its main ingredients were the earth dragon and the leopard-striped white tiger's essence blood. However, now Long Chen was refining it with the all-devil monster's essence blood. Although Long Chen split 1 drop of its essence blood into 10 before refining the pills, each pill still contained a frightening amount of berserk energy. This particular pill is probably only suitable for Gu Yang, muttered Long Chen. If someone else consumed this top-grade giant pill, they would instantly explode. Only Gu Yang would be able to survive the ordeal. Looks like I still underestimated the power of its essence blood. I'll have to split each drop into 100 for it to work. Long Chen split the essence blood once more, only merging 1/100th of a single drop of its essence blood into his pills. This time, he refined 9 top-grade normal pills. The energy in giant pills was too great and was unsuitable for the dragon blood warriors. With the blazing dragon cauldron and Hua Long's assistance, he didn't have to refine any more. They could do it on their own. Hua Long had it easy. It just used a single split body to refine pills with the blazing dragon cauldron. The rest of its bodies were absorbing the energy in the divine flame crystals. Now Long Chen focused on consuming the divine gate pills. The blazing dragon cauldron's efforts had resulted in a small mountain of divine gate pills, so Long Chen had to get to work. On this day, Long Chen started to constantly consume medicinal pills by the handful. He calculated that he had to be eating over 10,000 divine gate pills each day, and each one of them was a top-grade 9th-tier pill. Without the primal chaos space that allowed him to have an infinite amount of ingredients, he'd have bankrupted a sect like the Xiantian Dao sect in less than a month. Normally, only soul transformation alchemists could refine 9th-tier medicinal pills. And amongst those people, only a 10th had the possibility of refining top-grade 9th-tier pills. To refine top-grade medicinal pills didn't just require great skill. It required a certain amount of luck. Being able to refine a single top-grade pill out of 100 furnaces was not bad. Any top-grade pills that they did refine would normally be stored by the alchemist as part of their personal collection. To them, they were treasures bestowed by the heavens, and they were symbols of their glory. That was why top-grade 9th-tier pills were basically priceless treasures on the marketplace. You wouldn't necessarily be able to buy one no matter how much money you had. Yet Long Chen was consuming such precious treasures like candy. If the world learned of this, it would definitely make countless alchemists faint. Some people would die from fright, some would die from the pain of having so many top-grade 9th-tier pills disappearing from the world, and some would die from rage. As Long Chen crazily consumed pills, the small dot of light in the middle of the vortex in front of his divine gate gradually changed. It seemed to be going from gaseous to liquid, and then it went from liquid to solid. At that time, the core of the star was completed. As the Divine Gate star strengthened, Long Chen clearly felt the connection between it and the Fengfu, Alioth, Life, Fate, and Enlightenment Palace stars. He felt that the Divine Gate star was sharing its power with the other 4 stars. Those 4 stars were also transforming. The 5 stars were growing as one. It was no wonder it was taking so long for the Divine Gate star to advance. It was advancing while bringing the other 4 stars along with it. That made Long Chen feel even more anticipation for the day it was fully condensed. He could clearly feel his body going through some kind of transformation. The most obvious change was that the chi seas below his 4 stars were continuously growing stronger. His spiritual yuan was growing more abundant. That was also what excited him the most. Both Starfall and the 5th form of Split the Heavens were huge moves that sucked up the majority of his spiritual yuan. During the battle, he would have to choose between using one or the other. But as his 4 chi seas grew stronger, then adding on the spiritual yuan in his 108,000 stars, he would be able to consecutively unleash his ultimate moves. Thinking of that, he felt an indescribable excitement. Before this, he had always had to be careful when fighting, making sure to get the most out of every bit of his spiritual yuan. However, it seemed that with the growth of the Divine Gate star, he would be able to luxuriously spend his energy when fighting. Each fight with a rank 9 celestial was extremely taxing for him. Their manifestations constantly absorbed energy from heaven and earth to replenish their own usage. On the other hand, the world rejected him. He had to use the divine ring to force the world to give him its spiritual yuan. Now he didn't need to rely on heaven or earth. He could rely on himself. The only thing he could count on was the 9-star Hegemon body art. 3 days later, he had refined plenty of Dragon Tiger body tempering pills and came out of seclusion. Minus the ones for the Dragon Blood Legion, there were still over 1,000 left for the Xiantian Dao sect. These pills could definitely be passed down as treasures. When Li Tianxian received over 1,000 top-grade 9th-tier pills from Long Chen, he involuntarily jumped in shock. Long Chen had given him plenty of medicinal pills before this as well, but he knew that those pills had been plundered from Pill Valley. They couldn't see the light of day, and when given to disciples, they had to be consumed stealthily. Now, there were over 1,000 Dragon Tiger body tempering pills, and they had clearly just been refined. In other words, Long Chen had personally refined all of them. Li Tianxian had decided not to bother or ask about Long Chen's power. Although he had known that Long Chen was very skilled in alchemy, he hadn't expected his skills to be so monstrous. When handing the pills over, Long Chen asked Li Tianxian to bring him to where Wild was sleeping. That was within the Xiantian Tower, and it was definitely safe. A pool of blood appeared beside Wild. Long Chen had brought over all the remaining essence blood of the All-Devil monster. It filled a 3,000-meter pool, and he tossed Wild in. The large cocoon around Wild began to slowly absorb the essence blood. This essence blood is comparable to the essence blood of a rank 12 magical beast. For Wild to be able to absorb it directly, he truly is terrifying, said Li Tianxian with shock as he saw the cocoon absorb this powerful essence blood. Shen Master, how many ranks do magical beasts have? Asked Long Chen. 13. It's the same as human cultivators. After 13 levels, the next step is ascending and becoming a god or immortal. However, becoming a god or immortal lies only in legend. In fact, whether or not people can reach the 13th level is a mystery, said Li Tianxian. 13. Long Chen suddenly had a thought. He had 13 heaven stages in each realm. Could it be? Just at this moment, the blood pool began to bubble. A whirlpool appeared, and the blood began to rapidly fall. In just a few breaths, the blood was all absorbed into Wild's cocoon. He absorbed it all at once? Long Chen was stunned. All the pills he had refined had used just 2 to 3% of all the essence blood. His original plan was for Wild to absorb as much as he could and then Long Chen would save the rest of the essence blood. After all, it might be useful in the future. But he had really overthought it. After absorbing all this essence blood, silver runes appeared on the cocoon. Those runes quickly hardened, forming a seemingly metallic outer case. It was like a giant ball had enveloped Wild. The barbarian race really is terrifying. He required all this essence blood to store up enough energy for his metamorphosis. If you hadn't brought this essence blood, his metamorphosis would have probably taken thousands or even tens of thousands of years, gasped Li Tianxian. The barbarian race only existed in legend, and no one truly understood them. Now that Wild was in an egg-like ball, it meant that he was finally undergoing his metamorphosis. Once he awoke, he would be like a butterfly. It was unknown what kind of form he would take. Long Chen was startled and delighted. This was a good thing. The stronger Wild was, the better. He left the Shintian Tower and gathered all the Dragon Blood Legion. Good brothers should share their fortune. Medicine should be eaten together. There was a large open space in the back of the Shintian Tower. This had originally been the core plaza of the Shintian Dao sect, but after it had declined, this region had simply wasted away. However, it had been reopened recently. This region was given to the Dragon Blood Legion to use. Now, all the Dragon Blood warriors were gathered. There were also the people close to the Dragon Blood Legion: Hua Shiyu, Wang Zhen, Zhao Ziyan, Mu Qingxian, Su Mo, and the others. Tang Wanner had brought up whether Long Chen wanted to bring them into the Dragon Blood Legion, but he hadn't done so. The Dragon Blood Legion was going to fight through countless bloody battles with him. As his path was filled with towering mountains and plummeting pitfalls, he didn't even know how far he could go. The Shintian Dao sect had its own destiny, and he needed to leave behind a few powerful protectors for it. As for Hua Shiyu and the others, they would be the future pillars of the Shintian Dao sect. Boss, can we really eat this? Gu Yang was at the front of the Dragon Blood Legion. He was holding a giant pill in his hands, and he felt a chill when he sensed the fluctuations coming from it. This pill seemed to possess its own life. It was like a volcano that might erupt at any moment. This was something that could be used as a killer weapon, but he wanted them to consume it. If you can absorb it through your nose, you don't have to eat it, said Long Chen. Gu Yang was speechless. His nose wasn't small, but it wasn't so big that he could use it as a mouth. Gu Yang, are you even a man? A big man like you is afraid of a tiny thing like that? Hurry up and show everyone what to do. You're a captain of the Dragon Blood Legion, said Guo Ran disdainfully. Right now, everyone was holding a Dragon Tiger body tempering pill in their hands. However, they were just holding ordinary top-grade pills, while Gu Yang was holding a giant pill. Guo Ran, you shameless bastard, how about we switch pills? I guarantee I won't even bat an eye when I eat it. Raged Gu Yang. Tisich, your pill is bigger than 5 of ours. Boss is giving you special treatment, so you should be grateful. Shouldn't you be crying tears of gratitude? Are you suspecting boss would harm you? Guo Ran had an evil smile. All right, little brat, I'll remember this. Gu Yang nodded. He knew this fellow's ability at stirring up trouble far surpassed his. He hardened his heart and swallowed his giant pill. Boom. In less than a breath's time, Gu Yang's entire body looked like a frog being boiled. His body turned red, and explosive sounds came from it. The bricks inlaid in the ground cracked. Blood began to flow from his pores. Blood also came from his eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. Everyone was shocked. The blood pouring out of Gu Yang contained a huge amount of spiritual yuan. That was his core spiritual yuan. Don't fight it. The Dragon Tiger Body Tempering Pill contains a powerful essence blood that can replace your spirit blood. This is a chance for you to substitute your blood, and at the same time, your body will be tempered by it, making it even stronger, said Long Chen. Gu Yang wasn't listening. He couldn't even hear what Long Chen was saying. He was in too much pain. He let out a heaven-shaking roar that made everyone else jump in shock. Gu Yang's position in the Dragon Blood Legion was extremely high. Other than Long Chen and Wild, he was known as the manliest man. With his willpower and toughness, he still had to scream in order to release the sensation of pain. Gu Yang quickly became dyed in blood. Just looking at him gave others chills. All right, you should all be prepared now. You can consume your pills. Long Chen saw that Gu Yang didn't need any help from him and was able to forcibly withstand the power of the medicinal pill. He nodded with praise and had everyone else follow Gu Yang's lead. Guoran, who had previously said such big words, immediately turned green. He hadn't expected the dragon tiger body tempering pill to be so terrifying. If even Gu Yang was acting like this, wouldn't he die from the pain? However, everyone else had already popped their pills into their mouths. Even Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were no exception. They trusted that Long Chen wouldn't harm them. Brother Guoran, are you afraid? Probed one of the wood cultivators. Are you joking? When have I, Guoran, ever been afraid? I just feel a bit unwilling to eat something that boss personally refined. Thinking of how boss has worked so hard to raise the Dragon Blood Legion, spending so much blood, sweat, and tears, I just feel just eat it. Li Qi stuffed the pill into Guoran's mouth just as he was trying to drum up sympathy. He then clapped Guoran on the back of his neck, causing the pill to go down his throat. As soon as he swallowed it, Guoran let out a miserable shriek. He sounded like a pig being slaughtered. Shut up. The medicinal effect hasn't even activated, so what are you shouting for? Long Chen wanted to slap this bastard. Other than showing off, could he not properly cultivate? Guoran had just opened his mouth when he turned as pale as paper. Then he turned scarlet as the medicinal effect activated. Once the medicinal effect activated, Guoran couldn't scream. He was focusing all his energy on resisting the pain, so much so that he didn't even have the energy to shout. The only things ringing out now were heavy breathing and pained groans. Blood began to leak out of everyone. Meng Qi, Tang Wan, Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, Mu Qingxian, and the other women were also covered in blood, but they still clenched their teeth and persevered. Don't use your wood energy to resist it, or you won't be able to completely switch out your spirit blood. If your wood energy automatically tries to protect you, you should temporarily seal it, shouted Long Chen suddenly. Under this immense pain, the wood cultivator's spiritual energy was automatically activating to block the essence blood. The dragon tiger body tempering pills he had refined for Meng Qi, Mu Qingxian, and the other wood cultivators had had their medicinal energy cut in half. Furthermore, he had added other medicinal ingredients to soften the violent medicinal energy. That way, its effect would erupt slower and give them more time to adjust. After all, their physical bodies were too weak, and they couldn't endure such berserk medicinal energy. As a result, the pills he had refined for them only caused 1/10 of the pain the others were feeling. In actuality, the pain level that Meng Qi and the others were enduring was the normal one for the Dragon Tiger body tempering pill. The ones the Dragon Blood warriors were consuming had been modified by Long Chen. Not only had he made the medicinal effect ruthless, but he had also increased the pain level by 10 times. What he wanted wasn't just to temper their bodies, but also temper their wills. Although everything was in his control, seeing Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er covered in blood still made Long Chen feel like needles were stabbing his heart. He wished he could take their place. If the Dragon Tiger body tempering pill was effective on him, he'd eat 10 giant pills and go through this pain with everyone. Right now, each bit of pain they were enduring was increasing their chances of survival in future battles. The pain of the body and the pain of the mind could not compare to the pain of the heart. Back in the Jiuli secret realm, the scene of Lu Fang'e and Yijiqiu dying in front of him had been heart-rendingly painful. There was simply no way to describe it. Right now, each of them was going through a hellish torment. The pain felt like it would never end. It didn't give them any hope. Although it had just been an incense stick's worth of time so far, it felt longer than 10 years for them. They felt like they were on the edge of breaking down. As for Guoran, he had only endured for a few breaths before lying on the ground and fainting. That brat's willpower was far too weak, and he couldn't bear this pain. As a result, he triggered his mind's natural defense and fell unconscious. Even after falling unconscious, Guoran's body continued to undergo the effects of the Dragon Tiger body tempering pill. It was strengthening his body. However, it was now unable to temper his will. After an incense stick's worth of time, the wood cultivators were unable to endure any longer and fainted. They had surpassed their limits by staying conscious this long, which made Long Chen give them a thumbs up inside. Because women were innately more emotional than men, the pain of the mind was even worse for them. An hour later, Meng Qi and Mu Qingxian also couldn't hold on. Then Hua Shiyu, Zhao Zian, and the others also began to fall unconscious. After 6 hours, the first Dragon Blood warrior collapsed. These 6 hours had felt like 30 years within that endless torment. Unable to see any hope, they had struggled for what had felt like 30 years. That willpower was shocking enough. The first Dragon Blood warriors to fall were more accurately the Dragon Mark warriors that had joined them in the Central Plains. They were the weakest among them, but after going through so much with them, their willpower had grown much stronger. After 8 hours, only 1,000 warriors of the Dragon Blood Legion were still standing, tottering on the verge of collapse. The people that had come from the eastern wasteland were all present amongst these 1,000 people. That even included 5 women like Qingyu. They were still persevering. Gu Yang suddenly opened his eyes. The Dragon Tiger body tempering pill's effect had finally come to an end. The pain faded. The others also sighed with relief as their hellish torment came to an end. Don't relax too early. You've only gone through half of it. Following this, it's time for you to temper your bodies with lightning, said Long Chen slightly apologetically. Lightning tempering? Gu Yang and the others didn't understand. At this time, the warriors that had fallen unconscious began to wake up as the medicinal effect wore off. Lei Long, come out and greet everyone. A sea of lightning suddenly fell from the sky, enveloping all of them. A large lightning dragon floated in the air above everyone. Everyone looked at Lei Long with shock. They sensed its new aura and felt that its pressure was 10 times stronger than the final wave of their last lightning tribulation. They had seen Long Chen's lightning dragon before, but they were shocked that it had grown to such a terrifying level. Lei Long, help them out with their tempering, said Long Chen. But countless lightning runes lit up on Lei Long's body, turning into 30-meter lightning dragons that coiled around each Dragon Blood warrior. Everyone was fully awake now. Only one person lay on the ground like a dead dog. However, Lei Long didn't stand on courtesy. A lightning dragon directly wrapped around Guoran, and when the thunder force was injected into his body, he immediately yelped. Long Chen's expression darkened and he cursed, "You shameless bastard, of the entire legion, you were the first to fall. Even the healing sisters lasted twice as long as you. Don't you feel embarrassed to make so much noise?" Lei Long, double the thunder force on him. Lei Long was very obedient, and a second lightning dragon coiled around Guoran. The double thunder force poured into Guoran's body. Today, I'll let everyone see what 2 dragons cooking a pig means. Just keep acting dead. Long Chen laughed sinisterly. Boss, I'm going to die, cried Guoran painfully. Don't worry, you won't die. And even if you do, I promise to burn a lot of paper money for you next year. I guarantee you'll have nothing to worry about in the next world, said Long Chen indifferently. Boss, I hate you. Good, I prefer this. It'd be gross if you shouted out that you loved me instead. Long Chen crossed his arms over his chest, completely indifferent to Guoran's plight. Guoran coughed up a mouthful of blood, but Long Chen refused to be shaken. Guoran pleaded, Boss, I'm a forging master, and I don't need to be that strong. Why can't you let me off? Long Chen ignored him. This brat always had countless excuses to get out of pain. Did he not realize that the pain he suffered today would be the foundation for his posing in the future? Each bit of power Guoran obtained would improve his posing ability. Although he understood that, he still didn't want to feel any pain. That was why Long Chen ignored his cries and had Lei Long torment him. This fellow's willpower was the weakest of everyone, so he needed extra tempering. As for everyone else, their wills were already extremely firm after the hell they had gone through. Long Chen had Hua Long temper their bodies in the gentlest way, and so they didn't even feel any pain. Instead, it felt very comfortable. Hearing Guoran continuously crying, everyone found it funny inside. They knew Long Chen was doing it on purpose. Furthermore, he was truly evil. He intentionally had Lei Long control its power so that Guoran couldn't even faint again. Boss, I'm going to go crazy. I'm insane. Guoran suddenly laughed crazily. Then congratulations, I heard insane people garner the most fame. Only a crazy mortal can become an immortal. Night Guoran, carry me to new heights of posing. Long Chen laughed mischievously. Tang Wan, Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, and the others all laughed. Meng Qi couldn't help sighing that these two were a couple of clowns. One was as slippery as oil, and one was as evil as could be. They were a perfect fit. As the thunder force continued to pour in, the dragon blood warriors felt their bodies rapidly strengthening. Even the wood cultivators with extremely weak bodies felt like their bodies were brimming with strength. But the best thing for them was that after the torment of the dragon tiger body tempering pill, their spiritual strength had also advanced a level. The dragon tiger body tempering pills that Long Chen had refined for them were special, and through strengthening the physical body, it also passively increased spiritual strength. That was why even they were benefiting immensely from this pill. However, their benefits still weren't as great as the dragon blood warriors who already possessed extremely powerful physical bodies. After consuming the dragon tiger body tempering pill and going through this lightning baptism, their physical power was crazily soaring, to the point that even they felt some fear. Gu Yang was the first to finish. With a single punch, the void shuddered. Gu Yang was delighted and shocked. The feeling of being full of energy was splendid. The others also finished their lightning tempering, and they were all happily surprised. They felt like they had gone through a heaven-toppling transformation. A single dragon tiger body tempering pill had completely transformed their bodies. At this time, the two lightning dragons around Guoran also left him. But he was lying on the ground, twitching, his eyes scarlet. He had entered a crazy state. Long Chen forced Guoran's mouth open and stuffed a pill down his throat. Only then did he stop twitching and fall unconscious. Long Chen, don't you think you were a bit too ruthless? Asked Meng Qi. Although Guoran was a slippery little fellow, his current appearance was truly pitiable. There's no way around it. If we aren't ruthless enough to ourselves, we won't be able to handle it when our opponents are ruthless to us. Don't worry, once he wakes up and realizes how much stronger he is, he'll run over and grovel while thanking me. Long Chen truly understood Guoran far too well. When he felt his new power, he would completely forget about the pain. This new strength would be the foundation of his future posing. Long Chen patted Gu Yang on the shoulder hard. Feeling how strong his body was now, he nodded in praise. The all-devil monster had truly been powerful. Just a trace of its essence blood was able to strengthen their bodies to unprecedented heights. Boss, do you want to exchange some pointers? Asked Gu Yang suddenly. After his strength explosively grew, he wanted to test himself. All the Dragon Blood Legion began to cheer rowdily. They also wanted to know just how much stronger they had grown. Gu Yang was the one with the greatest power in the Dragon Blood Legion other than Long Chen and Wild. They cheered excitedly now that he challenged Long Chen. I also want to see how strong you've become. Long Chen smiled. Boss, watch out. Gu Yang didn't stand on courtesy. Retreating, a crackling sound came from his body as his blood chi rose. The manifestation of a rank 8 celestial appeared behind him. Gu Yang seemed to become a furious wild beast. With his power instantly raised to its peak, a booming sound rang out. All the Dragon Blood warriors cheered. They felt their hot blood surging and also seemed to enter a battle state. Boom! Gu Yang stamped down, and the ground exploded. Turning into a ray of light, he shot at Long Chen. As he reached the end of his travel, his power had reached its peak. Seeing Gu Yang's punch smashing toward him, Long Chen couldn't be careless. His 108,000 stars circulated, and he slammed his palm forward. Boom! Chi waves surged out, sending dirt and dust flying. The ground beneath Long Chen shattered, and he was forced back continuously. As expected of you. Long Chen was amazed. Gu Yang's power was dozens of times greater than before. His full-force attack made Long Chen's blood flip inside him. Boss, don't hold back. Summon your battle armor. My fist is thirsting for a fight, shouted Gu Yang. His robes began to float, and runes circulated around him. His muscles instantly bulged as he used a powerful battle skill. As you wish. Boom. Heaven and earth shook. Gu Yang flew back, rolling like a calabash, and he vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood. the divine ring behind Long Chen and the stars in his eyes that had appeared for just a moment now vanished. He returned to his normal appearance. "Boss, did you have to do that? I just wanted to compete a bit. Did you have to be so serious?" Gu Yang was pulled up by someone. The bones all over his body had cracked, and his internal organs had received quite a shock. The Dragon Tiger Body Tempering Pill is truly powerful. "Just now, I didn't hold back, but you only received a light injury that can be instantly healed. You're pretty good, Gu Yang," praised Long Chen. Just now, he hadn't been merciful, but Gu Yang wasn't even heavily injured. He was very powerful now. If he hadn't condensed the Divine Gate Star, he probably wouldn't be a match for Gu Yang in terms of power anymore. Hee, to be able to block boss's full-strength attack, I guess I'm pretty powerful myself. Gu Yang praised himself proudly. Long Chen had always been an unrivaled expert in the same realm. Just how many people were able to block his full-strength attack? It truly was something worth being proud of. With everyone's power explosively growing, Long Chen told them not to cultivate for a little while. They should form pairs and drill against each other in battles of physical power so they could get used to their new power. All in all, the Dragon Blood Legion had been risen to a new level thanks to the Dragon Tiger Body Tempering Pills. 3 days later, while Long Chen was busy consuming pills, Guoran excitedly interrupted him. He hugged him and wanted to kiss him, which resulted in Long Chen kicking him away. "Boss, you really are my beloved boss. Starting today I, Guoran, am unrivaled beneath the heavens." "I just defeated Gu Yang," shouted Guoran excitedly. "Really?" Long Chen was startled. Then he quickly recalled that once Guoran put on his armor, his power rose by dozens of times. His power was the lowest amongst the Dragon Blood Legion, but by wearing his armor, his power could match those of Gu Yang and the others. Now after the baptism of the Dragon Tiger Body Tempering Pill and Thunder Force, his base power had multiplied by hundreds of times. With the help of his armor, he truly was capable of defeating Gu Yang. "So, do you want to challenge me too?" asked Long Chen. No. I'm not as dumb as Gu Yang. Boss, in my heart, you are a god. This junior wouldn't dare to fight you." A bootlicking smile hung on Guoran's face. "Put away your smile, it gives me chills. If you want to say something, just say it." Long Chen shuddered upon seeing Guoran's expression. That smile's destructive power was immense. "Boss, I need to create a new set of armor for myself. I've already designed the blueprints, but I want to see if you have any suggestions." Guoran took out a sheet of paper covered in symbols. This 3-foot-wide paper had over 10,000 mechanisms written all over it. "I get it. No wonder you're so low-key. Your armor was destroyed in the battle, wasn't it?" demanded Long Chen. "Boss, when it comes to you, my heart is as bright and clear as the sun and moon. I would never challenge you. In my heart you dash. Right, I get it. If you keep talking, I'll end up vomiting all my pills. I'll look at your designs." Long Chen hastily waved his hands to cut Guoran off. He lowered his head to see the composition of his armor. Although Long Chen didn't understand forging, he had many evil thoughts in his head that made Guoran prostrate himself in admiration toward him. When it came to battle experience, no one could surpass Long Chen. In the past, when Guoran had forged his armor, there would always be some flaws, and Long Chen would propose some ways to fix them that had benefited Guoran greatly. That was why Guoran first brought the blueprints to Long Chen this time. "Does your propulsion mechanism really have to be on your butt?" Long Chen asked with a strange expression. Guoran helplessly said, "There's no way around it. Whenever I put it on my hands, feet, or wings, it's very difficult to maintain balance. This is the best spot for it." This propulsion mechanism had been giving Guoran a headache for years now. Every time he accelerated, it looked like he was farting. It wasn't very becoming. However, only by placing it there could he keep his limbs and wings free. He was able to maintain his balance while not affecting his agility in battle. "This old design of your armor is no longer very useful." Long Chen looked it over and shook his head. "What do you mean?" Guoran was dumbfounded. "You're still focusing on wide area destruction with this armor." That's not useful to the current Dragonblood Legion. With this kind of attack style, you won't be able to kill our enemies in one blow. People with the qualifications to be our opponents will definitely be high-ranking Celestials. Injuring them but not killing them is meaningless, said Long Chen. You're right. Guoran instantly understood what he was saying. His line of thinking had been too rigid. In the past, in the Eastern Wasteland, to pursue the greatest wide area destruction had been correct. However, now the Dragonblood Legion's numbers had risen, and the opponents they were facing were powerful heavenly geniuses. He would most probably be fighting one-on-one, only occasionally throwing out area attacks. His area attacks were now ineffective. You can get rid of your 300 area mechanisms. Switch them all for power runes. You only need 5 close-range life protecting methods in your armor as well. Switch the rest for power runes. You should walk the path of a berserk power fighter, suggested Long Chen. Alright, I'll listen to you, boss. Are those runes on your wings for speed? Why are there so few? I only have 3 speed runes, and even they aren't very high level. I also can't carve them in a more concentrated way or they'll cancel each other's effect. Guoran was helpless about it. The majority of the runes he could engrave were for king items. The Xiantian Dao sect didn't specialize in forging items, so king items were their limit. As for the ethereal crafting secret record, Guoran had yet to comprehend many of those runes and couldn't add them to his forging. That's no good. With just power and no speed, you won't be able to hit anyone. I'll go ask Jing Wenlong to get some forging tomes and material for you, said Long Chen. If he wanted Guoran to forge ancestral items, he couldn't be stingy. Without going all the way, any money he did put in would just be wasted. Put your personal armor to the side. Let me see your design for the Dragonblood Warrior's armor and weapons, said Long Chen. Long Chen took out 2 pieces of paper. They were much simpler, but they still needed over 1,000 mechanisms. Not bad. You've carved a formation on the armor that lets everyone share their power for offense and defense. It's ingenious, praised Long Chen. Guoran was a genius when it came to forging. He knew that the Dragonblood Legion fought as a group. By placing formation runes on each set of armor he forged for them, they would be able to work together easier. Although there were only 2 options for sharing their power, one for a collective attack and one for a collective defense, this was still something Guoran had figured out how to do on his own. It was very impressive. I'm planning to use the scale pattern for the armor. The back and heart will be specially protected. Each scale will have a defensive rune on the front, and the back will have an offensive rune linked to their weapons. That way, their weapon and armor will be connected and be able to boost each other's power, explained Guoran as he pointed out various parts of the diagram. During the past few days, I tried forging 2 ancestral items. My forging table and hammer are 100% capable of forging ancestral items. They're that strong? Asked Long Chen. Yes. This forging table seems to be a divine item in and of itself. The forging hammer is the same. As my forging skills continuously advance, it's like they're slumbering divine items slowly awakening their abilities. The weight of the forging hammer always suits me perfectly. It's very strange. Now, each time I use them, I always kowtow to them first. I can feel a faint connection to them now, said Guoran. His respect for the forging table had only risen. When he mentioned it, his mischievous smile was replaced with a devout expression. Long Chen nodded. It seemed that Guoran was someone with a great destiny. The forging table he had pulled out of an ancient tomb in the Jili secret realm had to possess an extremely terrifying history. Forging ancestral items isn't a problem now, but there is one major problem. That's the item spirit. Without an item spirit, an ancestral item can't possibly unleash the power an ancestral item should possess. It will just be like a king item with a bit more energy, said Guoran. Ancestral items were nourished by generations of experts. That resulted in a powerful item spirit that could assist the master in unleashing the item's full power. An ancestral item needed an item spirit. That wasn't difficult. Even forging masters who could only refine king items were more than capable of adding an item spirit to a weapon. However, the problem was nourishing that item spirit. That process required centuries. For an ancestral item to reach its peak would require millennia. That was what made them so precious, and it was simply impossible for Guoran to do the same in a short period. You just forge them. I'll handle adding the item spirits, said Long Chen. As long as Guoran was capable of forging them, it wasn't a problem. Guoran didn't disappoint Long Chen. In just 3 days, he brought a scale armor and sword set that were on the level of ancestral items. However, they were still a mock-up and hadn't had any additional runes inscribed on them. Guoran was just letting Long Chen see their appearance. If there was no problem, he would start forging them en masse. Over half of the Dragonblood Legion used swords. Long Chen sighed emotionally as he held the sword. Guoran was truly a blessing to him. Who would have thought that his forging table would be so amazing that it could even forge ancestral items? The length, width, height, weight, shape, everything about it was very satisfactory. Long Chen told Guoran to imprint an image of a divine dragon on the weapons. That would be the mark of the Dragonblood Legion. Since Long Chen was satisfied, Guoran quickly finished the armor and sword. They were both fiery red and contained a huge amount of flame energy. That was the result of being forged with divine flame crystals. They possessed a powerful flame attribute, which wasn't suitable for wood or water element cultivators. Fortunately, those two attributes were rather rare, and only a couple hundred of them existed in the Dragonblood Legion. The others could use these. Long Chen put on the armor and wielded the sword, testing their power. As expected, without item spirits, there was no way to unleash the power of ancestral items. Since everything was confirmed, Guoran went into seclusion and began to forge the scale armor and swords. Since the materials being used were of the highest quality, the forging table seemed to be receiving some kind of nourishment and seemed to be awakening. That delighted Guoran, and he began forging like his life depended on it. As for Long Chen, he sent a letter to Zheng Wenlong. Zheng Wenlong's efficiency was extremely high, and in just 10 days, he had gathered a large pile of forging runes and ancient tomes perfect for Guoran's level. He had also brought over a mass of ancestral items materials. Of course, Long Chen wouldn't let Zheng Wenlong suffer a loss. He directly gave him 1,000 divine flame crystals and one of those giant divine crystals. When Zheng Wenlong saw that giant divine crystal, he was completely dumbfounded. The divine energy within it made it a priceless treasure. Even he didn't possess the qualifications to auction off such a terrifying treasure. Long Chen said that Zheng Wenlong should simply take it and treat it as him paying off all his debts. He trusted the Huayan sect and the way they conducted their business. After sending off Zheng Wenlong, Long Chen went into seclusion. The rest of the Dragonblood Legion also went into seclusion with a pile of medicinal pills that Long Chen had given them. Those were the pills he had plundered from Pill Valley. They had Pill Valley's mark and so they couldn't be sold. They should be used for private consumption. As a result, everyone entered a state of constant medication. Long Chen, we've managed to get news of Chu Yao. Long Chen was in the midst of eating his food as fast as possible when Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er came flying into his room. Long Chen spat out the pills accidentally. Then he hastily stuffed them into his mouth and swallowed. Are you serious? Hee, it's true. The Huayun sect's people sent this over. Open it. Tang Wan'er pushed a jade case into Long Chen's hands. Long Chen's hands trembled. Despite having faced armies of thousands of powerful enemies, he had never been this nervous before. He slowly opened the jade case. Inside, there was a verdant leaf that looked almost crystalline. It emitted boundless life energy. The entire room became filled with life energy. The potted plants Meng Qi had placed in Long Chen's room all began to rapidly grow as they overflowed with vitality. The dragon swims across the 4 oceans. The phoenix flies throughout the 9 lands. Seas of blood may block us, but we will never give up our path. Dragon and phoenix will both live to old age. These 4 lines were on the leaf. This was the promise the two of them had made to each other during the Phoenix Cry Lantern Festival. The first 2 lines were what Chu Yao had summoned the courage to say to express her life for Long Chen while she was stuck in an inescapable cage. The last two lines were what Long Chen had sworn in front of all the experts of the capital. Although they contained some of the frivolity of youth, the two of them truly loved each other. Seeing these words, Long Chen's tears almost overflowed. These words were not written on the leaf. Instead, they were the result of the natural vein lines on the leaf. In other words, they had formed when this leaf was born. Although Long Chen didn't know how Chu Yao had managed to do this, just from this small leaf, he could feel how much Chu Yao missed him and her heartfelt feelings. For him, Chu Yao had sacrificed far too much. She had gone all alone into the Central Plains, a foreign world. She had done this despite how much she yearned to be with him. All the case held was this leaf. There was no letter. But Long Chen could already understand Chu Yao's heart. The emotions between them had reached the point that they couldn't be described with words. Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were both aware of his past with Chu Yao. They exchanged a look, both feeling pity. They had been with Long Chen this entire time. Although it had been dangerous and they had gone through countless battles, they were able to fight alongside Long Chen. They were much more fortunate than Chu Yao. I wonder how big sister Chu Yao is lately. Why hasn't she come to see us? Asked Tang Wan'er. Chu Yao should be in a very critical period and can't come. Otherwise, she'd definitely come and find us. Don't worry, the current Chu Yao is stronger than any of us. Long Chen gently stroked the leaf with a faint smile. He sensed many things from this leaf. Stronger than any one of us? Is she stronger than you? Asked Tang Wan'er with disbelief. At the very least, she's stronger than the current me. Long Chen nodded. This leaf contained a familiar aura. That was an aura he had felt from Pill Valley's Pill Fairy, as well as the illusory music immortal palace's Ziyen. At the same time, he thought of 4 dislikable figures that had appeared in the immemorial path. When Yu Shaoqian was about to pass her tribulation, those 4 idiots had almost caused her to be killed by her tribulation. In his fury, Long Chen had provoked the heavenly Daos and brought down heavenly punishment. That had ruined those 4's tribulations and scared them off. Could it be that those 4 are also existences on that level? Wondered Long Chen. He felt boundless life energy from this leaf, as well as boundless heavenly Dao energy. Although it was just a single leaf, it seemed to represent the will of the heavens. Its existence broke all the laws around it. Meng Qi, Wan'er, your cultivation bases have pretty much stabilized. You should refine the rank 9 heavenly Dao fruits. As for the remaining 3, hand them to Gu Yang, Song Mingyuan, and Li Qi. Guo Ran doesn't have the time. Long Chen handed 5 rank 9 heavenly Dao fruits to them. 4 of them had come from Pill Valley's Chu Dajiang, Dan Yanxue, Qindongzi, and Jiang Zijuan. Although they had been killed by the all-devil monster and not him personally, as long as someone died around Long Chen, their heavenly Dao energy would be absorbed by the primal chaos space and condensed into a heavenly Dao fruit. The 5th fruit came from the ancient family alliance's Luo Mingho. He also wasn't killed by Long Chen, but by Meng Qi. That idiot had been so incredibly unbridled that he had completely infuriated Meng Qi. He had spoken so many profanities and insulted Long Chen so much that she hadn't hesitated at all. Wild was sleeping, while Yu Zifeng had been brought away by Ling Yunzi to the Heavenly Sword Gate. But of course, those 2 had special cultivation paths and didn't need the heavenly Dao fruit. Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er weren't surprised when Long Chen brought the rank 9 heavenly Dao fruit out. He had already told them everything that had happened in Pill Valley. However, he had wanted to raise their power before letting them refine the heavenly Dao fruit. The order of priority couldn't be messed up. He also took out plenty of rank 8 and rank 7 heavenly Dao fruits for Meng Qi to distribute. 3 months passed without any disturbance. No one came to find trouble for the Xiantian Dao sect. Pill Valley didn't do anything. Instead, a very unsettling piece of news spread. Problems had occurred in the circulation of pills coming out of Pill Valley, and that shook the entire cultivation world. People quickly managed to investigate the truth. When that Master Long San had plundered Pill Valley, he had taken all their medicinal pills and ingredients. This news threw the cultivation world into a panic. Without medicinal pills, the world would enter chaos. Pill Valley did their best to hide the truth because they hadn't wanted to cause a panic. However, Their ability at keeping secrets was far too lacking to succeed in such a venture. Countless sects turned to the Huayan sect, who viewed alchemy as a side business. Many sects were afraid of not being able to have their medicinal pill requirements be met by Pill Valley, so they secretly went to buy pills from the Huayan sect. The Huayan sect's stock of medicinal pills was quickly bought out, but countless sects were won over by their actions. Even though the demand had been so high, they hadn't inflated the price at all. Therefore, many sects began to sign long-term purchasing contracts with the Huayan sect. The Huayan sect always kept such contracts secret, and there were many measures in place to keep others from learning of them. As a result, the various large sects all formed agreements with the Huayan sect. This way, they would have two sources for medicinal pills. This was the best option for them. Even those sects that had been hugging Pill Valley's leg from the start were starting to sway. That was because Pill Valley was hard-pressed, and their interior was still a mess. They couldn't bother with outsiders. These sect's disciples had been killed by Longchen because they had been currying favor with Pill Valley. However, Pill Valley hadn't given them any compensation. It didn't even say a single word of comfort. Now, even those loyal followers had no choice but to side closer to the Huayan sect. Pill Valley couldn't do anything as the Huayan sect expanded its business into the pill market. Right now, they were doing their utmost to refine more pills to meet the market demand. They could only pick medicinal ingredients from their fields, but some of them took hundreds or thousands of years to mature. Without their previous stock, there was no way for them to meet the demand. All of Pill Valley was in disorder, and they truly hated Master Long San now. The elders and disciples belonging to the radical faction were all repeatedly cursed, but they couldn't even retort. However, after a moment of chaos, the waves passed. After calming down, the sects realized that they had been worrying over nothing. They already possessed a large stock of medicinal pills that could last them for many years. During this time, Pill Valley or the Huayan sect would be constantly trying to resolve this problem. If they couldn't buy medicinal pills, well, others couldn't either. Everyone would be on even playing grounds, so there was no need to panic. This wasn't something that would cause some sects to be wiped out and others to dominate. So there was no need to panic. Everyone could suffer together. The waves caused by the shortage of medicinal pills passed. But another even more shocking piece of news spread throughout the world. The heaven-devouring forest tree demons had suddenly left this world, leaving behind a huge spatial portal. That portal led to the spirit world. Rumor said that the spirit world possessed countless treasures. Divine springs littered the ground, and just drinking a mouthful of its water could extend a person's longevity by hundreds of years. The continent was rocked. Experts wanted to go adventuring, but this news came too suddenly. It had to be known that the heaven-devouring forest was one of the 7 great forbidden zones. The life forms of the forest were even more terrifying than magical beasts. People suspected that it was a trap. However, there was no lack of people who wanted to go on adventures. Some experts finally couldn't help going. The first person was a life star expert, and he was instantly rejected by the spatial portal. His physical body exploded, and only his Yuan spirit escaped. People immediately realized that life star experts could not enter this spatial portal. So a soul transformation expert tested his luck. He was also forced back, but because his cultivation base was lower, he only suffered a light backlash. Finally, Jade Core disciples managed to go through the portal and enter the spirit world. They entered one by one, but none of them returned. Yet, some sects still sent some of their disciples to test their luck. Finally, a disciple managed to return alive. He brought back a shocking piece of news. A huge war was being fought in the spirit world. This news shook the Central Plains. This was the best chance to dredge up some benefits. The righteous path, corrupt path, ancient races, and ancient family alliance sent countless Jade Core geniuses to the spatial portal. As for when Long Chen heard this news, he immediately gathered the Dragon Blood Legion. I will finally repay the debt I owe from back then. Just as Long Chen gathered the Dragon Blood Legion, Li Tianxian came to find him. He gravely warned, "Think carefully about this. That place is like a pool of muddy water. It involves many things. Long Chen was startled. He couldn't figure out what exactly Li Tianxian was saying. An entrance to the spirit world had been opened, and adventurers had already gone to test their luck. How was it a pool of muddy water? If he said that it was dangerous, that would make sense. But a pool of muddy water? That was dumbfounding. Let him go. The Xintian Tower's voice rang out. But Senior, there's nothing to say. Long Chen is well aware that that place is dangerous. Since he wants to go, it means he has his reasons. Since you've decided to let go, you should let go completely. Li Tianxuan's expression was helpless, while Long Chen's expression was questioning. It seemed they knew something but refused to tell him. Once Long Chen left, Li Tianxian stood in the Xintian Tower. The Xintian Tower's ancient voice rang out once more. From the eastern wasteland to the central plains, Long Chen has never walked the common path. Even if you told him everything, you wouldn't change his decision. Instead, you would simply draw karma to yourself. In my eyes, that is very foolish. But Senior, the spirit world involves so many different things. Once Long Chen enters, no one can control Long Chen's fate. No one is qualified to guide him down his path. Since you've chosen to leave the Xintian Dao sect's fate to him, you should give him free rein. Sometimes speaking is an instinct, while not speaking is the truly wise choice. The Xintian Tower's voice was completely calm, as if this was an extremely minor affair. Disciple was foolish. Thank you for your guidance. Li Tianxian took a deep breath. Your concern caused your thoughts to become muddled. You've lost your initial transcendent attitude. When you decided to give the Xintian Dao sect to Long Chen, you were someone outside the game. But once you left it to him, you became someone inside the game. The viewpoints between the two are immense. People inside the game see a mountain as a mountain, water as water. But people outside the game know a mountain is not just a mountain, and water is not just water. A spark of comprehension appeared in Li Tianxuan's eyes, and he knelt on the ground, respectfully saying, "Many thanks for your guidance, Senior." The Xintian Tower had been the divine item of the Xintian Dao sect's patriarch. Even the Xian master had to call themselves disciple in front of it. There's no need to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Long Chen, or perhaps the high priest of the Wine God Palace. It was his wine that allowed your mental realm to rise to an unprecedented height, while I just gave you some slight guidance. You've reached the peak of life star and can enter the netherworld whenever you want. But the Xintian Dao sect still needs you for now. Your master is at a critical juncture, so you can't attempt to break through. I know. Li Tianxian nodded. As for Long Chen's matter, don't bother with him. Just keep the attitude of a spectator. The lines of fate are in chaos, and the world is about to change. You are not this era's main character, so being a spectator isn't necessarily something bad, said the Xintian Tower. Could it be that even if I entered the Nether Passage realm, I still wouldn't be able to play a leading role in this era? Li Tianxian bitterly smiled. Child, with your talent as an acquired rank 9 celestial who is qualified to attack the Nether Passage realm in just 800 years, you can already count as a genius. However, this stage is not for you. So, just be content as a spectator. Alright, I'll listen to you. I'll be a spectator, said Li Tianxian helplessly. Li Tianxian was over 800 years old, but for life star experts, a single round of seclusion might last over 100 years or several hundred years. So, he was actually very young. The other heavenly geniuses in the same generation as him had all slowly fallen or been thrown so far behind that they would never catch up. Recently, he had touched the door to the Nether Passage realm, and so a competitive drive had been ignited in him again. Based on the Xintian Tower's words, even if he reached that realm, he would still just be a spectator. That was quite the blow. However, the Xintian Tower was the first-generation patriarch's divine item. Li Tianxian felt great reverence for it. Then should the reincarnation mirror be sent to escort Long Chen? Asked Li Tianxian. This time, the Xintian Tower didn't bother answering. Li Tianxian couldn't help but blush, and he hastily said, "Disciple knows his mistake." Boss, when did you get such an amazing flying boat? Guoran excitedly cried out as he drove the flying boat. This was thousands of times better than any flying boat he had ever driven. The entire Dragonblood Legion was on the flying boat. But this time, Long Chen only brought the Dragonblood Legion. He hadn't brought Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, and the others. He had noticed that they were slightly different from the Dragonblood warriors. That was because they had originally been peak heavenly geniuses, and they lacked a kind of determination to press forward even in the face of death. As for the Dragonblood Legion, both the old Dragonblood warriors and the newer Dragonmark warriors had been lacking in talent. The only reason they had been able to climb to their current height was because they had worked as if their lives depended on it. They possessed the resolve to put their lives on the line. As they hadn't been blessed with anything, they weren't afraid of losing it. Geniuses all possessed a feeling of superiority. They were unable to truly maintain the same heart as the Dragonblood Legion. Although they listened to Long Chen's orders, and there was no need to question their loyalty, there was simply something that couldn't be clearly explained lacking within them. Because they were lacking that thing, in the end, they were unable to be one with the Dragonblood Legion. Furthermore, this trip to the spirit world was not a vacation. There would definitely be a bloody slaughter. Thus, Long Chen didn't want to implicate anyone outside the Dragonblood Legion. This trip to the spirit world was to repay his debts. If the expert from the spirit world hadn't bestowed him with the divine life elixir, he'd have long since died. Wild would also have died. And it was unknown just many of the people beside him right now would also be dead. He owed that expert a huge debt. As for the Dragonblood Legion, they were his life and death brothers, so they naturally went with him. He didn't want to draw anyone else into his problems. This flying boat was gifted to me. Long Chen lazily reclined in a chair in the control room. Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were pouring tea for him, and he received a cup from Meng Qi. Gifted? Who was so nice? Asked Guoran. Who knows how many hearts of beauties he seduced this time? Being gifted a single flying boat isn't much. Am I right, Master Long San? Tang Wan'er raised her brows at Long Chen. Her bright eyes were locked onto his, seeming to pierce into his heart. Long Chen almost spat out his tea. Smiling a smile that wasn't a smile, he said, "Girl, with your little bit of spiritual strength, you shouldn't try using spiritual peeping arts on me." He didn't know what she was thinking. She was using her spiritual strength to sense if he was lying, but her spiritual strength wasn't able to do such a thing to him. Scoundrel, stop changing the subject. Speak, did you seduce any beauties this time? Tang Wan'er was embarrassed, and her embarrassment quickly turned into rage. She grabbed Long Chen's collar. Without even thinking about it, I know it definitely happened. If he didn't do such a thing, he wouldn't be the boss, said Guoran. Perhaps he was thinking of the pain he had suffered when being tempered by lightning. Long Chen raged. Just fly the boat. Don't worry, boss, with my technique, I can fly with my eyes closed. Sister One, I'm willing to bet that this time, boss seduced at least 3 beauties on his trip to Pill Valley. If you don't believe me, just keep questioning him. Of course, with boss's calm, just asking isn't useful. Without a bit of torture, he won't speak the truth. So how about this? If it's less than 3, I'll eat this flying boat, promised Guoran. Big Sister Meng Qi, you come and try. Tang Wan'er kept a tight grip on Long Chen as she called out to Meng Qi. Long Chen clenched his teeth when he saw Guoran's pleased expression. It seemed that this little fellow's confidence had inflated. Now he even dared to con his boss. Stop messing around. Long Chen went to Pill Valley for proper things. He wouldn't act as unreasonably as you're saying. Meng Qi shook her head. Meng Qi, thank you for your trust. You really treat me the best. Long Chen was extremely moved. Meng Qi truly was the best. However, I'm very curious, is that pill fairy very beautiful? Meng Qi's beautiful eyes contained a teasing light. The change in subject came so suddenly that Long Chen was caught off guard. He was still filled with gratitude toward her when she pulled the subject right back. Only Meng Qi, Tang Wan'er, Guoran, Gu Yang, Li Qi, and Song Mingyuan knew about his trip to Pill Valley. The other Dragonblood warriors had no idea. Boss, is that pill fairy really like a real-life fairy? Did you manage to seduce her? Guoran turned back with a mischievous smile when he was suddenly slapped by Long Chen. Long Chen's sudden attack caused Meng Qi and Tang Wanner to let out startled cries. Guoran's words were cut off in the middle, and the control mechanism in his hand tilted. The flying boat was in the midst of passing through two large mountains, and as a result, it tilted and crashed into one. Boom! A large jag appeared on the mountain, and the flying boat shuddered violently. Fortunately, its defenses automatically activated, and it wasn't damaged. Sorry boss, sorry. I'll properly fly the boat. You guys can chat. Seeing Long Chen's dark expression, Guoran hastily turned away, making sure not to say another word. The sound of Gu Yang's cursing rang out from above. The collision just now had been especially aggravating for him and the others. This flying boat was something Long Chen had stolen from Pill Valley, but the outside had already been disguised. The original markings had been removed so that it no longer looked like Pill Valley's flying boat. Just as Tang Wanner was interrogating Long Chen for details about the Pill Ferry, the flying boat slowly descended to where the heaven-devouring forest had once been. Long Chen could no longer recognize this place. The heaven-devouring forest towering trees had all vanished. The ground looked like it had been freshly overturned. It was like this entire land had been plowed and was simply left to nature. Wild growth grew everywhere. The flying boat continued forward, but Long Chen was puzzled. The horde of adventurers he had expected to see rushing in this direction never appeared. Although he did see a few, they were sparse and isolated, only in small groups of just several people. What's going on? Why would only so few people come for such a good opportunity? Wondered Tangwan. Is it that it's too dangerous, so they don't dare? Guoran was also suspicious. The heaven-devouring forest name is on the same level as Devil Spirit Mountain, but Devil Spirit Mountain had so many people adventuring inside. It doesn't make sense. Meng Qi shook her head. According to reason, something this huge would have shaken all the Central Plains geniuses, and they would have flocked over. But they didn't see any large groups. Even groups over 10 people were very rare. Seeing how few adventurers there were, Long Chen thought of Li Tianxuan's warning. Was this to say that he knew what was going on with the spirit world? The flying boat quickly reached the spatial portal at the center of this region. From a distance, it looked like the gaping maw of a giant beast that was patiently waiting for its prey to enter. The spatial portal was dozens of miles wide, giving off violent spatial fluctuations. The space around it rippled like water. This was a spatial portal that had existed for countless years, and the spatial channel inside was completely stable. It was like a door to the spirit world. However, this place had been the heart of the heaven-devouring forest and had always been a forbidden land to human cultivators. If the heaven-devouring forest tree demons hadn't suddenly vanished, no one would have known that there was such a spatial portal here. This spatial portal was opened by the tree demons and was made for them. Human soul transformation experts and above would feel a strong sense of expulsion if they tried to enter, and if they forced it, the spatial backlash would kill them. Long Chen put away the spatial boat. The Dragon Blood warriors stood in front of the spatial portal, all of them feeling their spirits rise. Long Chen had said that they were going to return a debt. Long Chen's debt was their debt. And they also wanted to take a look at the legendary spirit world. Let's go. Long Chen led the way. Meng Qi and Tang Wanner followed right behind him, and then the rest of the Dragon Blood warriors. Gu Yang and Guoran took the rear. But space shook, and the scene in front of Long Chen changed. He saw he was standing on top of a mountain. An endless forest stretched beyond the horizon. This is the spirit world. What strong life energy fluctuations! Exclaimed Tangwan. But this air also contains something evil. For Meng Qi, this was her second trip to the spirit world. She could sense that this place was different from the last place they had entered from. Long Chen hadn't even had a chance to completely capture the scenery around him before a blood-red sword slashed toward him from an odd angle. Over 10 other figures appeared with the sword, attacking Long Chen. Wind blades suddenly formed in the air, slicing through those people like flying knives. Tang Wanner was now a rank 9 celestial, and her control over wind energy had reached the point that she could control it at will. Even without forming hand seals, she could control the surrounding wind. They're from the corrupt path. Meng Qi was surprised. There were a total of 17 of them, and 16 of them were soul transformation experts. These people were all very weak. They were only rank 3 celestials. But the shocking thing was that they were soul transformation experts. Just how had they entered the spirit world? The rest of the Dragon Blood Legion now entered. The first thing they saw were the corpses on the ground. Sorry, I couldn't control my energy perfectly. Tang Wan'er stuck out her tongue with embarrassment. As a rank 9 celestial, even just a random attack from her contained the might of the heavenly Daos. These people were too weak. Even their Yuan spirits were destroyed. How strange. They were from the corrupt path, so they should have recognized Long Chen. Were they trying to get themselves killed by attacking him? Meng Qi was trying to make sense of what was going on. If you were to ask who the corrupt path wanted to kill the most, it would definitely be Long Chen. Whether it was in the eastern wasteland or the central plains, Long Chen had killed countless of their experts. That incident on Devil Spirit Mountain had especially been vicious. Long Chen had killed so many of their geniuses. Therefore, now that the corrupt path as a whole hated Long Chen, how could their people attack and fail to recognize him? No one could figure that out. Even Long Chen himself couldn't tell what was going on. He could only vaguely feel just how grave this matter was. Li Tianxian had clearly known some things and wanted to tell him, but the Xiantian Tower had prevented him from doing so. Kill! Suddenly, a furious roar came from the distance. Experts from the corrupt path charged over. There were dozens of them, but what was shocking was that half of them were Life Star experts. Ooh, you're Long Chen? Ta, kill him. Their leaders suddenly recognized Long Chen and began to laugh with delight. A rank 5 celestial dares to be so arrogant? Gu Yang flew out, his spear striking like a poisonous snake. That Life Star expert was startled as this bald fellow made his soul shudder. Feeling that this baldy posed a mortal threat to him, he took out his corrupt weapon, a curved blade with an evil aura coming out of it. He raised it against Gu Yang's spear. Boom! His corrupt weapon shattered, and he himself was blown apart by Gu Yang's spear. His Yuan spirit tried to escape, but it was destroyed by another thrust of Gu Yang's spear. A Life Star expert was instantly slain by Gu Yang. Both the corrupt experts and the Dragon Blood warriors were shocked. However, Long Chen had expected this. These Life Star experts were the weakest existences in their realm. For rank 3 celestials, due to their limited talent, reaching the Jade Core realm would normally be their limit. The limit for rank 4 celestials was soul transformation, and the limit for rank 5 celestials was the Life Star realm. This so-called limit referred to never being able to advance again after making their breakthrough. In other words, once a rank 5 celestial broke through to the Life Star realm, their cultivation bases wouldn't advance again. These people's cultivation bases would be stuck in the state of someone who had just broken through. They couldn't even count as having reached the first heaven stage. It was a bit similar to how Lu Tsong had used a Life Star bead to break through. However, these people were even weaker than Lu Tsong, and their weapons were all inferior king items, with half not even having reached the king item level. As for Gu Yang's spear, it was an ancestral item Long Chen had brought out of Devil Spirit Mountain. In the first clash, that curved blade was as weak as paper, and the Life Star expert was slain. Kill them all. Meng Qi, see if you can soul search them. Long Chen waved his hand, giving out his orders. Kill! Gu Yang felt like his heart was about to burst with joy after killing a Life Star expert in one blow. This feeling of accomplishment was truly stimulating. His spear unleashed a wave of spear images at the corrupt experts. The Dragon Blood Legion instantly surrounded those people. Tang Wan'er, Li Qi, and Song Mingyuan all attacked. What they found strange was that these Life Star experts were truly weak. They were all killed in just a few exchanges. As for the soul transformation experts, they were even weaker than ordinary Jade Core disciples. They might not even be a match for the Xintian Dao sect's outer sect Jade Core disciples. The Dragon Blood Legion had never encountered such weak Life Star experts. They were all slain in just a few breaths, dumbfounding the Dragon Blood warriors. They were just too weak. "Boss, what's going on?" Gu Yang's excitement vanished. He was just stunned at how weak these people had been. "How was it, Meng Qi?" Long Chen didn't reply to him, instead turning to Meng Qi. Meng Qi's hands slowly came out of their seal. A rune on her forehead faded, and she opened her eyes, shaking her head. Their souls were filled with restrictions, and I couldn't get anything of value from them. They're the corrupt path's weakest existences and aren't even fighting experts. Normally, they are in charge of gathering information, and thus the corrupt path doesn't view them highly. These people's longevity was coming to an end, so they were sent to kill any disciples that entered from this channel. But there is one piece of important news I obtained. They didn't enter from this spatial portal. Instead, they entered through other means. Other means? Yes. Their memories were sealed, but by scouring the fragments of their souls, I was able to piece together that they had entered the spirit world from a large transportation formation. Furthermore, the number of people that came with them was extremely great. Meng Qi was now worried. The corrupt path's transportation formation could dispatch experts above the Jade Core realm. Meanwhile, the outside world's experts could only send in Jade Core disciples and below. In this case, the righteous path's disciples would be slaughtered if they encountered the corrupt path here. The scent of a scheme was growing stronger. The corrupt path's experts had entered the spirit world in force. For the Dragon Blood Legion to have also entered, they had essentially stepped into the corrupt path's hive. Long Chen thought about it for a while before shaking his head. The old man said constantly using brains to resolve problems will cause a person's body to regress and their guts to shrink. There's no need to think too much about it. It doesn't matter what they're scheming. All we have to do is flip the heavens as usual. When has the Dragon Blood Legion ever been afraid? Then he raised his hand and summoned the flying boat. Since they want to play with their secret schemes, we'll just use an open scheme. Let's move out. The flying boat shot through the air like a streak of light. It was completely unbridled and fearless. Below them was an endless sea of trees. "Boss, don't you think this is too unbridled?" asked Guoran as he controlled the flying boat. "No need to worry, just keep flying like this. The more carefully we travel, the easier they'll find us. Perhaps by flying so openly, we can pass ourselves off as belonging here," said Long Chen. Since the corrupt path could enter this place without any restrictions on their cultivation base, Long Chen wanted to test if the tree demons might view them as from the corrupt path. He also realized why they hadn't seen disciples of other sects rushing over to the spatial portal. The sect leaders of the various sects must be aware of some secrets and had warned their disciples not to come. He didn't know why the Xiantian Tower would prevent Li Tianxian from telling him those things, but he knew the Xiantian Tower wouldn't harm him. If the Xiantian Tower wouldn't tell him, he would find the answer on his own. "What direction should we go then?" asked Guoran. "Just close your eyes and fly. As long as you don't fly into any mountains, you can go wherever you want," replied Long Chen. "Boss, can you not mess around so much? I'm talking seriously." "I'm talking seriously as well. The spirit world's huge, and I don't even know where the person I'm looking for is. So you can fly wherever you want," said Long Chen. Last time, he had come with Meng Qi to the spirit world, and they had only seen a single corner of the spirit world. They hadn't entered very deeply. When he compared the huge trees they had seen at that time with the heaven-devouring forest tree demons, he found that what they had seen last time weren't worth anything. So they could fly around blindly. Heavens, these trees are giant. Meng Qi, Tang Wanner, and the others all let out a startled cry. The trees in front of them blocked out the sun, turning the world dark. We were just in the outer region before. Now we've entered the real spirit world. Guoran, keep flying like before. Just charge through directly, said Long Chen. These trees were so tall that the flying boat couldn't fly above them. The airflow that high would cause huge resistance and greatly impact their speed. Guoran involuntarily gulped at the sight of these somewhat sinister giant trees. He had never seen trees like this. They gave off a feeling similar to magical beasts baring their teeth. However, with Long Chen's orders, he could only steel himself and send the flying boat charging through their midst. The darkness in front of them was endless. The sunlight was completely blocked by the leaves. This was a world of darkness, of deathly silence. However, the flying boat didn't slow down. It continued charging forward, and these sinister trees didn't do anything to stop them. Long Chen narrowed his eyes. This was truly abnormal. Although these tree demons were low tier, they definitely had to have some intelligence. According to reason, they shouldn't permit the flying boat to continue so brazenly. Increase the speed. Guoran slowly increased the flying boat's speed to its max. Just as everyone's hearts were clenching tightly, these huge trees opened a path for them. "Boss, why is the path starting to curve?" called out Guoran. The path the trees had opened was not straight. "It doesn't matter. Just follow the path," said Long Chen. This wide path finally let in some sunlight. It was the only light in this world of darkness. They rushed forward on this path, but everyone was still tense. Through this flight, they finally recognized the terror of the spirit world. Even after 3 days and nights of travel, they were still on this path. The flying boat was going at max speed. The distance they had crossed would probably be enough to even cross the martial heaven searing. "Boss, another flying boat has appeared," cried out Guoran. Another flying boat was up ahead, but it was much smaller than theirs. After all, this flying boat had been stolen from Pill Valley. It was the highest grade flying boat. Just a few seconds after noticing the second flying boat, they caught up. "It's from the ancient races." Everyone easily recognized that the flying boat belonged to the ancient races just from the mark. There were thousands of ancient race experts on the flying boat. An elder standing at the front of the flying boat shouted, "Which power are you from? Why haven't you displayed your symbol?" "Boss, what do we do?" asked Guoran. Long Chen thought about it for a moment. He couldn't figure out why these ancient race experts would be here. Furthermore, that elder was clearly a life star expert. Eliminate them. "Boss, are you joking?" Guoran jumped in shock. "Don't waste words. Slowly open the barrier." "We're attacking," said Long Chen. The flying boat's runes lit up. The barrier slowly opened, allowing the ancient race experts to see which power they were from. They were first dumbfounded to see a mass of people. But when they saw one guy in particular who was waving at them, when they saw that extremely friendly smile, their expressions instantly changed. "Long Chen!" Boom! Just as they were shocked by the sight of Long Chen, a huge cannonball smashed into their flying boat. The ancient races hadn't expected that they would be attacked. And Long Chen was truly evil to store up energy as they slowly lowered the barrier. As a result, the ancient race's flying boat exploded, and all the people on it were killed. Even the Life Star expert was not an exception. Because it had come so suddenly, they hadn't been prepared at all. The explosion of their flying boat's core was so destructive that not even their Yuan spirits escaped. Although the explosion also affected the giant trees, Long Chen had told Guoran to fly away at top speed as soon as the attack was launched. They were already rushing away. "Strange. Why didn't these trees attack us?" wondered Guoran. "It's not strange. The ancient races and the corrupt path have very likely come to reinforce the heaven-devouring forest," said Long Chen. From his various tests and the fact that Li Tianxian had wanted to warn him, as well as Pill Valley's relationship with the heaven-devouring forest, Long Chen had come up with a very brazen theory. The forest divinity he had encountered in the outskirts of the Phoenix Cry Empire had possessed a holy and divine aura. It had been completely different from the berserk and evil aura of these tree demons. It was likely that the spirit world possessed two great powers. One was the side of the forest divinity, while the heaven-devouring forest represented the other side. As for the experts that said that a war was being fought in the spirit world, that was nonsense. It was part of the corrupt path's scheme. They were trying to draw more adventurers to their deaths. There had been so many experts guarding the spatial portal. Although they were incredibly weak for the Dragonblood Legion, they could easily slaughter Jade Core disciples. Most importantly, this situation in the spirit world was definitely known by Li Tianxian. His warning was definitely going to be that other sects weren't letting their disciples come because this wasn't a good opportunity, but a sinister trap instead. They continued flying for 2 more days, and the huge trees slowly dwindled in number. Replacing the forest was a barren mountain range. The ground had been destroyed, and the scars of battle were still present. A dense scent of blood still hung in the air. It seems we've reached the battlefield. Let's continue onward, but carefully. We might end up joining a bloody battle at any moment, and there won't be any time to warm up, called out Long Chen. He couldn't conceal his excitement. He had owed this debt for a long time, and that pressure had been like a stone weighing down his heart the entire time. He wanted to cast it away as soon as possible. As they continued onward, he realized that this battlefield was even larger than he had thought. The ground below them was stained red with blood, and there were huge skeletons as large as mountains. Their flesh had already vanished, but their skeletons still emitted terrifying auras. At first, they only appeared occasionally, but as the flying boat advanced, more and more of them appeared. The entire ground became covered with white bones. Did we end up coming to hell? Guoran couldn't help muttering as he stared at the white bones covering the blood-stained ground. This scene was truly similar to the hell spoken in legends. Suddenly, they heard a furious roar in the distance, and the ground trembled. A ray of light soared into the sky, but they were still too far to tell what was going on. "We're going." The flying boat sped off in the direction of the light. The flying boat shot forward, allowing them to see several giant beasts attacking a person. These beasts were called scorpion lions. They were 8th-rank magical beasts. Their upper bodies were covered in fur, while their lower bodies were cloaked in plates of armor. They had long tails with huge stingers. Each of these scorpion lions was 300 meters long and crazily attacking one person. Long Chen and the others were surprised by the appearance of the person whom these scorpion lions were attacking. It was a slender, beautiful woman who wasn't wearing any clothes. She had 2 leaves covering her chest and a skirt made of woven leaves around her waist. Her legs were extremely large. She didn't have the proportions of a normal person. At this time, one of the scorpion lions opened its mouth, and a white ripple spread. The ground crumbled, and the woman pressed down on the ground. That allowed Long Chen and the others to see her face. Her face was beautiful, making her look like a spirit elf. Her nose pointed up slightly, and her eyes protruded out a bit more than a regular person's. Her pupils were emerald green, and there was an image of 6 leaves on her forehead. This woman was extremely strange. Her aura was completely different from a normal cultivator's. But based on the power she had displayed, she seemed to possess the power of a sea expansion expert. Even surrounded by these scorpion lions, she didn't panic. She held an emerald bow, and she shot out an arrow. The bow and arrow were extremely simple. The bowstring looked to be a wooden vine, while the arrow didn't even possess an arrowhead. It was just a sharp stick. Shockingly, the arrow directly pierced through the scorpion lion's defenses. How is that possible? A stick was able to break the defense of an 8th-rank magical beast? If that bow was a king item, then fine. But it was clearly just the simplest, most primitive bow. How did it possess such power? The scorpion lion roared painfully. It was the same furious roar that they had heard before. Guoran, prepare to attack. I'll give you a chance to be the hero saving the beauty. That woman's running out of energy, said Long Chen. Although Long Chen didn't understand this woman, from his years of combat experience, he could guess that this woman was like an oil lamp on the verge of running out of oil. That arrow she had shot out had clearly been pointed at the scorpion lion's eyes, a vital spot. But when she had unleashed it, her hand had shuddered, causing her arrow to miss and strike its neck. Boss, you really are my beloved boss, my dash. Just go. Long Chen grabbed Guoran and threw him off the boat. I swept through the 4 seas, crossed 1,000 mountains, caused huge billows in heaven and earth, slaughtered demons, eliminated devils, plucked the stars and moon. If there's a beauty in need of saving, Guoran will be her hero. Guoran struck a very flashy pose in the air as he shouted. Long Chen and the others almost coughed up blood. This was just too shameless. This damn chant of his was always identical, except he would change the last few lines to match the situation. Just how thick did a person's face have to be to say such a thing over and over again? Guoran's shamelessness gave them goosebumps. Long Chen had an urge to give this fellow a vicious beating. If he had to show off when there was a good chance to show off, then fine. However, right now, the only ones here were the Dragonblood Legion, excluding one outsider and a few magical beasts. Just who was he showing off to? It wasn't a time to be showing off, but he still forced it. It was completely unbearable. The woman seemed to have sensed Long Chen and the others' arrival a while ago, and she wasn't surprised by Guoran coming. She continued to nimbly dodge the Scorpion Lion's attacks. "What are you dawdling for? Hurry up and attack. We're all busy," shouted Long Chen. If he hadn't tossed out Guoran, he'd have charged out already. This fellow was clearly waiting for a critical moment to interfere. Guoran helplessly pointed out his finger, and rays of golden light shot out. The heads of the Scorpion Lions were all pieced straight through the middle, and they exploded. "Miss, don't be afraid. I'm a good person. I'm here to save you, and I won't ask anything of you. All you have to do is give your heart to me." After killing those Scorpion Lions, Guoran advanced closer to the woman. She suddenly raised her bow and pointed an arrow at Guoran, making him raise his hands innocently. The woman didn't react to Guoran's words. Her hands were shaking from how tired she was. Just pulling back the bowstring was taxing to her. "Miss, put down your bow. I don't want to be killed when your hand slips." "Ah, fine, you don't need to give your heart to me." Guoran shook his head. For some reason, that arrow gave him a sense of unease. It seemed that some energy within that arrow intimidated him. The woman still didn't reply. She glared at Guoran, but her arms trembled even more. However, when a certain person walked over, she was shocked and delighted. She put down her bow. What shocked everyone was that this woman immediately flew over to Long Chen and threw herself into his embrace. "Hey, what's with this? I'm the one who saved you. You should be throwing yourself to my embrace," cried Guoran. Long Chen also found it strange. But he didn't sense any hostility from this woman, so he didn't refuse her. The woman really did just hug him like that. The leaf image on her forehead spun, and she took a step back. "Friend, have you come to help our forest of life?" The woman suddenly began to speak. "I don't know what the forest of life is. I came to the spirit world to repay a debt." Long Chen shook his head. "You have the aura of the forest of life on you. You have an agreement with the forest of life, so you are our friend." Agreement? Long Chen suddenly thought of the final words that the spirit world expert had said. "She came from your forest of life?" Long Chen created an image in the air with his spiritual strength. It was an image of the forest divinity that small nameless village in the eastern wasteland had offered sacrifices to. "This friend, my comrades are in danger. Can you help us?" asked the woman. "Talking is too difficult. Transmit what you want to communicate with me through spiritual strength." Long Chen pressed a hand against the woman's forehead. The woman was clearly panicked inside, but her words didn't seem to match her expression. She probably wasn't able to speak this way easily. "Meng Qi, summon Cloud. We have to go." Cloud appeared in the air. Meng Qi, Tangwen, Long Chen, and the woman jumped on. Cloud let out a bird cry and transformed into a rainbow streak of light that vanished from the rest of the Dragonblood Legion's sight. "We're following." Guoran used the flying boat to fly off in the same direction. Due to the urgent situation, Long Chen had left first. Cloud had been in seclusion in the myriad spirit diagram this entire time. Its cultivation base was still at the peak of the 9th rank, but it was displaying more and more power of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. Its aura had grown far stronger, and its speed was absolutely shocking. It flew so fast that there was no way to see their surroundings as they passed. Through the woman's soul, Long Chen confirmed that she was definitely from the same side as the forest divinity. She was from the spirit race. The spirit race was the indigenous race of the spirit world, and the forest of life was what they depended on to survive. Long Chen could have learned much more from this woman's soul, but he didn't, because that was an invasion of her privacy. He only received what she expressed to him. All he really needed to know was that he wasn't helping the wrong person. These ladies from the spirit world really are stubborn. They're still resisting. A corrupt expert pulled out an arrow sticking out of his shoulder, grimacing from the pain. There were hundreds of corrupt experts on this battlefield. They were surrounding a large tree, and there were over 10 spirit race women fighting against them, shooting out arrows continuously. The corrupt experts were unable to approach the women, because divine runes came falling from the huge tree, forming a natural formation that protected them. Under the protection of the tree, they were able to hold on. But at this time, the runes on the tree's leaves were starting to dim. The corrupt experts' attacks were constantly draining its energy. They were powerful experts within the Jade Core realm, and the tree couldn't last much longer. Fortunately, the arrows from the spirit race's women were also terrifying. They possessed some energy these disciples had never encountered before. If they were shot in their heads, their souls would instantly dissipate. Even the Yuan spirit of a soul transformation expert might be erased. That was why these Jade Core corrupt disciples had been in a deadlock with them for the better part of a day. Dozens of them had already been killed, infuriating them. They had to constantly dodge the rain of arrows as they attacked the tree. As long as the tree ran out of energy, these women would be easily caught. The runes on the tree's leaves were dimming, and the barrier protecting it was weakening. Each of their attacks was causing it to shudder as if it might break apart at any moment. Boom! The tree finally couldn't last any longer. The barrier exploded and the tree vanished, transforming into a withered seed. At the same time, one of the women coughed up a mouthful of blood. She turned pale and fainted, and the others hastily went to support her. Haha, beauties of the spirit race, you're ours. The corrupt experts laughed greedily and sinisterly charged forward. They didn't know that a huge mouth had suddenly appeared in the sky above them. It devoured them all in one gulp. All the corrupt experts were devoured by Cloud. In front of a cloud chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow, they didn't have the slightest opportunity to resist. Cloud had been cultivating in the myriad spirit diagram this entire time, and it had learned the divine abilities of the cloud chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. Amongst them, the most terrifying was their devouring ability. Of course, that was why they were given the name heaven-swallowing. At the same time as Cloud devoured those corrupt experts, it swung its wings, and the spirit race women felt their bodies lighten. They appeared on its back. They were shocked and about to resist when the spirit race woman beside Long Chen seemed to communicate with them spiritually. They didn't need to speak to know what the others were saying. Those women immediately thanked Long Chen. But their clothes were far too simple, making things awkward. He tried his best not to look, but their bodies were all beautiful. Even Meng Qi and Tang Wanner couldn't help but glance, let alone a man like Long Chen. The curious thing was that all the spirit race's experts were women. He saved 3 waves of them on his way, and they were women. It made him speechless that they all looked identical. It was almost impossible to tell them apart. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion shook the land, and a pillar of light soared into the air. They saw a blood-colored skeleton floating in the air, wielding a huge bone club. Facing the skeleton was a woman of the spirit race. An image of an ancient tree hung behind her, one that was even larger than a mountain. Chains shot out of the tree, attacking the skeleton. The spirit race woman fought against the skeleton, while countless experts of the corrupt path and spirit race were clashing in the distance. Their battle was extremely miserable, and both sides had taken losses. Corpses covered the land, but the corrupt path was currently winning. Their power was extremely great. They had over 10 life star experts and hundreds of soul transformation experts. Moreover, their Jade Core experts numbered in the tens of thousands. As for the spirit race's side, they were down to less than 10,000 members, and whether it was in terms of numbers or power, they were at a disadvantage. The worst thing was that their leader, the one who was fighting the skeleton, was already starting to lose. The chains she summoned were being blown apart one by one. Long Chen, Please save our spirit guard, begged one of the spirit race women by Long Chen's side. Don't worry, with Long Chen present, your spirit guard will be fine, said Meng Qi. Both she and Tang Wanner had recognized the master of that skeleton. I'll go greet him. I'll leave the rest to you too. Long Chen shot off. Meng Qi, Tang Wanner, and Cloud charged into the fray. Sisters, tell your people to retreat. We're not that fierce, but when a certain fellow fights, he always causes a mess. Tang Wanner smiled to the spirit race women. She knew that once Long Chen fought, he would definitely shake heaven and earth. On the battlefield, the corrupt experts seemed to be crazily attacking the spirit race women. But although it looked fierce, they were holding back. Their goal wasn't to kill the spirit race women, but to capture them alive. Just as the corrupt experts thought that they would be able to capture most of their prey, the latter suddenly retreated. At the same time, the sky darkened. What's going on? The corrupt experts were startled. Looking up, they saw a single wing covering the sky and smashing toward them. Watch it, it's a cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow, shouted a corrupt life star expert. He immediately launched an attack with his weapon. The other life star experts also attacked. They were people with great experience, and they knew how terrifying the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow was. Boom! Rainbow light exploded. 7 life star experts had attacked all out, but were still knocked back, almost coughing up blood. The shockwaves of this exchange caused the other corrupt experts to fly back, and quite a few of the weaker ones were killed. The soul bound by its dream. Frigid wind moon. 2 voices rang out at almost the same time. The corrupt experts suddenly entered a dazed state, feeling like mortals who hadn't slept in a week. They truly wanted to sleep. But once they slept, they wouldn't need to wake ever again. Watch out, it's a bewildering soul art. A sharp cry rang out, startled the corrupt experts who had been about to fall unconscious. That sharp cry came from a life star expert who specialized in the soul. He wasn't affected by Meng Qi. An icy crescent wind blade slashed out at the 7 life star experts that had just been sent flying by Cloud's attack. The 7 of them were startled, but blood qi suddenly erupted out of them, and blood runes condensed into a huge shield. Boom! The crescent wind blade collided with the blood shield. The wind blade exploded, and the shield formed from all 7 of them also collapsed, causing them to hack up blood. Due to how hasty their movements were, their internal organs were injured. The corrupt experts were in disarray, not having expected the spirit race to suddenly gain such powerful reinforcements. But when they saw who had come, their pupils shrank. The Xiantian Dao sect? They had yet to recover from their shock when Meng Qi and Tang Wanner both formed a hand seal. 9 flowers appeared behind each of them, and heavenly Dao energy revolved around. With the manifestation supporting them, they appeared more beautiful than ever. What? The corrupt experts were even more shocked. No matter what, they would never have expected Meng Qi and Tang Wanner to become terrifying rank 9 celestials. The instant the 2 of them summoned their manifestations, the corrupt experts felt their heavenly Dao energy sucked away. The amount of heavenly Dao energy they could use sharply dropped. Don't be afraid, they're just 2 people. Furthermore, they're just in the Jade Core realm. Boom. At this moment, a huge explosion shook the world, cutting off that person's shouting. A blood-red skeleton fell from the sky. It had been smashed down by a single person's fist. That person was as small as an ant when compared to the huge skeleton. But this ant completely blew the skeleton away. The expert who had been called the spirit guard had thought that the situation was hopeless, but just as the final blow was about to be delivered, Long Chen had arrived. That woman had received spiritual messages from the other members of the spirit race, and she looked in shock at the godlike figure that was standing in the air. Gui Yen, your pork chop ability has grown ever stronger. Last time I destroyed your skeleton. Could it be that you dug out your family's ancestor to take its place? Taunted Long Chen. There was a person at the top of the skeleton, and he was staring in shock at Long Chen. That person was precisely the one who had fought against Long Chen on Devil Spirit Mountain, the corrupt path's Gui Yen. The 2 of them met once again, both feeling immense hatred for the other. Last time, Long Chen had almost died to Gui Yan's curse and had only survived thanks to the Nirvana scripture. As for Gui Yan, he hated Long Chen as well. His defeat in their last battle had cost him all his face, as well as the ghost general that he had been raising since childhood. When he had heard that Long Chen was still alive and had even shown immense power in front of everyone by defeating Luo Mingho, Gui Yan had almost lost his mind. He had learned that in the midst of his cultivation, and it almost made his qi go out of control. Good, the heavens really have eyes. Now I get another chance to defeat you. Gui Yan suddenly laughed. That laughter was full of rancor. As he laughed, his face split open as a terrifying injury was triggered. The blood pouring from his face made him especially frightening to look at when combined with his scarlet eyes. No wonder Leng Yueyan cut your face. Your smile really is ugly. You should never smile again in the future, said Long Chen. Long Chen, I don't know if you're stupid or just conceited to dare to come to the spirit world. It seems that your sect leader didn't know that I would be here, laughed Gui Yan. Oh, is there any difference now that you're here? A difference? No, I suppose there isn't too much of a difference. In any case, you would die sooner or later. There's not much difference whether you die in the spirit world or the martial heaven continent. If you have something to say, just say it. If you have to fart, either keep it in or let it out completely, taunted Long Chen. You want to get information out of me? Keep dreaming. However, Long Chen, I admit I underestimated you. I didn't expect you to ask the Wine God Palace's high priest to remove my curse. I suppose you must have kneeled and kowtowed to him countless times, sneered Gui Yan. He completely ignored the others fighting. In truth, Gui Yan was full of envy and resentment. If Long Chen had died to his curse, then at very least he could say that Long Chen had died to his hands, and his humiliation at having been defeated would be wiped away. His defeat in Long Chen's hands had turned him into a laughingstock of the corrupt path. People constantly discussed his defeat when he wasn't around. Now that he saw Long Chen again, he instinctively mocked and ridiculed him. It was like that was the only way to make himself feel a bit better. Do you not feel slapping yourself in the face is painful? Last time you bragged so hard, but weren't you still defeated? If a Life Star expert hadn't saved you at that time, you would have never managed to escape. Well, you might have gotten away last time, but this time, I'll be taking your life. Long Chen's divine ring appeared, and 5 stars glowed in his eyes. Long Chen's aura began to rise. His robes and hair started to float. Seeing that he was unable to dredge up any valuable information from Gui Yan, he decided not to waste any more time. Long Chen, I'll admit that you defeated me last time. But this time, death is upon you. Gui Yan's expression was indifferent. The blood-colored skeleton beneath him raised its bone club. Last time I lost because of your dog's hit luck. Your flames just happened to suppress my ghost general, or you'd have died last time. Are you not curious? My ghost general was destroyed in our last battle, so how do I have it again now? Gui Yan smiled. Long Chen simply stared at Gui Yan without speaking. He had no intention of playing along. What he was saying was to either hurry up and release his fart, or just restrain it already. The battle would start either way. Long Chen, by defeating my ghost general, you half-crippled my cultivation base. But I managed to benefit from that defeat. Speaking of which, I need to thank you. Due to your victory, the corrupt path suffered such immense losses that countless sects were implicated. To compensate me for my losses, Lord Xie Luo gave the resources that should have gone to them to me, allowing me to recreate my ghost general. Your victory last time was only thanks to some people being careless. Those people were all executed, and I obtained the souls of millions of experts. My ghost general is no longer a ghost general, now it's a ghost king. Have a taste of its power. Boom. The blood-colored skeleton's runes lit up. In truth, each of those runes was a person's face, and an incredibly evil aura came from it. It was like millions of ghosts were demanding others to join them. Blood mist filled heaven and earth, making it appear like hell on earth. The wails of ghosts pervaded the air. The ghost general was weak to your earth flame, but now I have an unrivaled ghost king. It's an unrivaled existence in the same realm. Gui Yen roared, and the skeleton roared along with him. It looked like a devil from hell. As the blood mist spread, the spirit race experts had to retreat. They were filled with loathing for this blood mist, and they didn't dare to touch it. At this time, Guoran arrived with the flying boat. The Dragon Blood Legion joined the battle, and there was no longer any need for the spirit race experts to fight. Are you done bragging? If you are, I'm going to attack. Long Chen slowly stretched his shoulders. His bones cracked. He wasn't even listening. He had heard similar words so many times that they all started to blend into each other. The only reason he was circulating his energy so slowly as a warm-up was because it had been 3 months since he had fought, and it felt like he was a bit rusty. During these 3 months, he had been eating medicinal pills all day. The Divine Gate star had grown to the size of a soybean. His Feng Fu, Alioth, Life Fate, and Enlightenment Palace stars had also gone through a transformation. Even he wasn't sure what level he had reached right now. His 4 chi Cs had grown by several times, and his 108,000 stars had been subtly changing as well. He was full of energy. I really hate your ignorant way of speaking. Last time, you survived thanks to your dog's hit luck. But this time, I've gotten tired of your unchanging way of bragging. Can't you change it up a bit to keep it interesting? Let's just see who's stronger. Long Chen let out a single punch, shaking heaven and earth. He shot toward Gui Yen. You're not fit to be my opponent. Gui Yen sneered. The giant skeleton's club came smashing toward Long Chen. The spirit race experts were all worried. Long Chen looked completely minuscule when compared to the skeleton. The Dragon Blood warriors who were cleaning up the battlefield all looked at him with anticipation. They all felt like it had been a long time since they had seen Long Chen fight. Boom! Space exploded and the earth rocked. A howling tempest tore through the ground. This was a world-shaking collision. After this fierce exchange, the spirit race women stared in shock at the sky. Long Chen was still in his punching posture. As for the skeleton, it had been blown back 100 miles, its bone club shattered. The skeleton simply lay there as if it was dumbfounded. Impossible! Gui Yen roared furiously, unable to believe this. Do you like slapping yourself in the face so much? Alright, I'll help you. Long Chen flew into the sky and then dove down like an eagle after its prey. A cauldron appeared in his hand, smashing toward the skeleton. Ghost King Fusion. Gui Yen had no time to be shocked. He hastily formed hand seals, and he merged into the skeleton's skull like water. An image of Gui Yen appeared on the skull. After Gui Yen merged with the Ghost King, 9 blood-colored flowers appeared behind it. He was using the Ghost King's body to summon his manifestation. Once the manifestation appeared, the skeleton's shattered club regrew. It now had countless heavenly Dao runes on it and was much stronger than before. Boom! The club collided with the blazing dragon cauldron. Terrifying shockwaves spread, tearing apart the land. The Dragon Blood warriors hastily defended, and Li Qi summoned a huge earthen shield to protect the spirit race experts. Once the shockwaves had passed, only a few experts from the corrupt path were left. Some of them with stronger cultivation bases had managed to escape through luck. The rest had all been slaughtered by the Dragon Blood Legion. After all, the Dragon Blood Legion had no weak members. Their cultivation bases had reached the Mid-Jade Core realm, and they had over 3,000 rank 8 Celestials. The rest were rank 7 Celestials. Such a terrifying legion, when combined with the lead of 5 rank 9 Celestials in Meng Qi, Tang Wana, Gu Yang, Li Qi, and Song Mingyuan, was more than capable of annihilating those corrupt experts. So what if they had some Life Star experts? They were not even close to being able to stop the Dragon Blood Legion. Since their battle was done, the Dragon Blood Legion spread out, forming a huge encirclement that sealed the battlefield. They stared at Long Chen's fight with rapt attention. Long Chen was repeatedly smashing the cauldron into the blood-colored skeleton. The Ghost King was definitely powerful, and each time its club collided with the blazing dragon cauldron, the ground would shake violently. This was a pure collision of power with no technique. After 3 smashes, Long Chen was still unable to cause any damage to Gui Yan or the Ghost King. Long Chen felt helpless inside. The blazing dragon cauldron might be an ancestral item, but it wasn't a fighting item. It also wasn't heavy enough for him to unleash his true power. It seemed he would need to find a suitable weapon in the future. Split the heavens 5. Long Chen suddenly switched the cauldron for a fiery red sword. Sword light soared into the air and then slashed toward the Ghost King. Gui Yan was horrified. In that instant he felt a cold chill. The skeleton suddenly shrank and coiled around itself, forming a huge sphere. Blood-colored light formed around it, constructing multiple barriers. This was its strongest defensive state. Boom! The sword light slashed down. A huge explosion caused a bottomless pit to appear in the ground, and the sphere shattered into countless pieces. In front of the fifth form of Split the Heavens, this defense was too flimsy. Perhaps if Gui Yan had launched an all-out attack instead, he might have been able to receive this blow. However, Long Chen's overwhelming power had made him lose confidence, so he had made a foolish mistake. Split the Heavens possessed a natural effect of breaking barriers and shields. By switching to defense, Gui Yan had suffered immensely. His skeleton shattered, and Gui Yan flew out from one of the fragments, vomiting blood. But Gui Yan was a true expert. As he vomited blood, he quickly formed hand seals. His blood condensed into a huge portal that possessed powerful spatial fluctuations. He was using his own essence blood to build a spatial portal. It was one of his secret life-preserving techniques. Bang! His spatial portal had only just formed when a huge wind blade slashed into it, breaking it apart. It was Tangwan. They all knew that killing a rank 9 celestial was very difficult. They not only had great power but also countless hidden trump cards and karmic luck supporting them. The heavens would create ways for them to escape, which made killing a rank 9 celestial as difficult as defying the heavens. So Tang Waner and the others were all prepared to stop Gui Yan from escaping. Tang Waner was also a rank 9 celestial, so their heavenly Tao energy was equivalent. She was more than capable of breaking his secret art. Gui Yan hastily took out a talisman, but just as he crushed it, his expression changed. This precious teleportation talisman was shredded, but no spatial energy came to bring him away. That was because at this moment he was surrounded by countless wind blades that even cut through the space around him. The disturbance of the spatial energy around him turned his teleportation talisman into scrap paper. Teleportation talismans were not transportation formations. They needed stable space to activate, or if the space around them was fluctuating, the teleportation talisman wouldn't have the energy to resist the disturbance. After failing twice, the delay allowed Long Chen's sword to come again. This sword was about to take his life. "Long Chen, you'll regret it if you kill me," shouted Gui Yan, suddenly taking out a fist-sized emerald. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.